Chapter 924. As soon as the system's notification ended, Yi Chun, who was inside the white fireball, opened his eyes. The Azure Dragon Battle Formation. The Azure Dragon is the main wood element. Seeing that I'm in danger, it's willing to sacrifice its life to replenish my life energy. Thinking of this, Yi Chun couldn't help but feel a surge of warmth in his heart. At this moment, the Azure Dragon wrapped in the Azure Dragon suddenly soared into the sky and turned into a ray of azure light, disappearing in a flash. At the Crusade Army's location, several small leaders of the Crusade Army narrowed their eyes when they saw the azure light rushing towards them. "Quick, use the items!" After a shout, the Crusade Army's guards recovered from the shock of seeing the Azure Dragon and summoned hammer-shaped molds one by one. However, before they could use them, the azure light flashed and passed through the entire Crusade Army in the blink of an eye. At this moment, all the Crusade Army's guards froze on the spot. Then they saw their bodies quickly shrivel up. In just a breath's time, all the Crusade Army's guards turned into shriveled and ugly corpses. A gust of wind blew and dust filled the air from the Crusade Army's shriveled corpses. Then, their corpses disappeared at a speed visible to the naked eye, leaving behind a ground full of hammer-shaped items. In the sky, the azure light that had passed through millions of Crusade Army suddenly stopped in midair, revealing the enormous body of the Azure Dragon. At the Polar Bear Army's location, seeing all the Crusade Army's guards die in the blink of an eye, the Polar Bear Army's players widened their eyes and shuddered. The East really summoned the Dragon God, and in one hit, it wiped out millions of Crusade Army's guards. Damn it. Didn't they say that the Crusade Army was very powerful? How could they be wiped out in one hit? And not even their corpses were left. The Eastern Cross Punitive Expedition is very powerful. They took out a powerful item, but before they could use it, they were killed. D***. I'm going to retreat first. The EU of Gojosian for the East is simply a freak. He can even summon a divine dragon. If he summons other divine beasts or Eastern immortals, not only will we die again, but we will also die in the real world. The players of the Polar Bear Empire were feeling uneasy because of the Azure Dragon strike. As they discussed among themselves, they started thinking of retreating. The burly man, Najev, who was equally shocked by the Azure Dragon, heard the discussion among the Polar Bear players and snapped out his days. There's no need to retreat. The strongest combat power under the Pope's command, the Sorcerer Army, has not arrived yet. Neither has the Archbishop. Once they arrive, the Easter Dragon God will be defeated in a single blow. As soon as Najev finished his words, the players from the Polar Bear Empire were stunned for a moment before they burst into an uproar. "Najev, it's useless for us to stay here. We won't be able to help at all." "Yes, Najev, we can worship the God of Light, but we don't have to wait here for our deaths." "That's right, we can stay far away and wait for the Archbishop and the Sorcerer Army to come. It won't be too late for us to come out after they destroy the Eastern Dragon God and the Great Han Empire's EU of Gojosian." The players from the Polar Bear Empire voiced their thoughts one after another. Previously, the players from the Polar Bear Empire were still able to believe Najev's words. But now, they didn't believe him anymore. To be more precise, all the players from the Polar Bear Empire felt that something was amiss. In other words, they were only here to watch the show. Even if they were to attack, they would wait until Yi Chen's reincarnation Immortal City's army was defeated. Of course, if it weren't for the horrifying scene of death caused by the Azure Dragon's attack, the players from the Polar Bear Empire wouldn't have such a unanimous opinion. It couldn't be helped. The Azure Dragon's attack was too shocking. Not only did it kill millions of people, but they also died miserably. Not only did they turn into dried corpses, but they also turned into powder that was blown away by the wind. It was the first time they had seen such a death. No one could guarantee that their deaths wouldn't affect the real world. It was for this reason that the players from the Polar Bear Empire wanted to leave the battlefield and not continue watching the battle. After hearing the conversation between the Polar Bear Empire's players, the burly Najev's expression changed, but he quickly regained his composure. In the next second, Negev looked at the players from the Polar Bear Empire seriously and shouted, "Shut up! Shut up, all of you! Do you know that I'm the one who insisted that you stay here? Let me tell you, we can work together to summon the angel. As long as the angel is summoned, we'll all become God's servants. Do you know what God's servants are? Let me tell you, as long as we become God's servants, even if we die in the real world, our souls will be eternal. We'll be taken to heaven by the Almighty God of light, and our bodies will be reconstructed. We'll become angels." As soon as Negev finished speaking, the players from the Polar Bear Empire were all stunned. Then, they saw the players from the Polar Bear Empire widen their eyes and reveal expressions of disbelief and excitement. "Negev, you're telling the truth?" "Absolutely." When Negev heard this, he nodded without hesitation. As soon as Negev's answer was confirmed, the players of the Polar Bear Empire instantly boiled over. "Ha! I was wondering why Negev insisted that we come here. So it's because of this. Negev, you'll always be our leader." "I, Rogers, swear to the God of light that as long as I become a God's servant, Negev will always be my boss. I swear." While the players from the Polar Bear Empire were shouting excitedly, Yi Chun, who was wrapped in a white fireball, glanced at the players from the Polar Bear Empire and curled his lips in disdain. Fools who were fooled. What dogsh asterisk T God's servants? What dogsh asterisk T angels? They couldn't even see through such an obvious trick, yet they're still so excited. Serves them right to be used. Serves them right to be killed. Yi Chun sneered. He waved his right hand, and the sun's true flame diagram that he had obtained from Liang Fulong appeared. In the next second, Yi Chun looked at the rapidly approaching Azure Dragon and shouted, "Don't come over here. This is the sun's true flame. You'll burn if you touch it." "My lord." Thunderous shouts came from the Azure Dragon's mouth as Yi Chun's words echoed. Yi Chun's heart warmed when he heard this. He then shouted, "Don't worry about me. Don't worry about me. This fire is perfect for me. You just need to get ready to eliminate that Bulsh asterisk T Archbishop and his mage army." Chapter 925. As soon as Yi Chun finished speaking, the sun primordial flame that enveloped Yi Chun instantly dispersed and was sucked into the sun primordial flame diagram. The reincarnation Immortal City Army, Zhao Yun, Dian Xiong, Guan Er, and the other generals were all delighted when they saw this scene. Then, they flew straight to the ground. Boom! The earth's crust shook and dust flew everywhere. Then, the reincarnation Immortal City Army appeared on the ground, where the Eastern Army was. Damn, the Azure Dragon that Yi Yu of Gojoseon's army created is too overpowered. It killed millions of people in one strike, and they all died so miserably. If I remember correctly, Yi Yu of Gojoseon can still summon the White Tiger and the Vermilion Bird. Damn, the only one missing is the Black Tortoise. It doesn't matter what's missing. Anyway, I feel that once the World War ends and the Vassal War begins, Yi Yu of Gojoseon will sweep across the world and ascend to the throne. Previously, I felt that the other Overlord players might have a chance if they worked together. Now, I don't feel that way anymore. Damn, even if the whole world works together, they won't be able to stop Yi Yu of Gojoseon's attack. What will you choose then? Bow down to him? If we don't bow down to him, what else can we do? Can you defeat Yi Yu of Gojoseon? I feel that even if we bow down to him, Yi Yu of Gojoseon won't accept us. Don't forget that Yi Yu of Gojoseon doesn't even accept underlings. It doesn't matter what it is. Anyway, I'm not going to participate in the Vassal War. Otherwise, I'll definitely be killed by Yi Yu of Gojoseon. Quick, look at the sky. Isn't that Yi Yu of Gojoseon? What are you talking about? That's definitely him. Okay, at the location of the Polar Bear Army. When the Azure Dragon landed on the ground and the reincarnation Immortal City's army appeared, the Polar Bear players who had just been riled up involuntarily fixed their gazes on Yi Chun, who was flying in the sky. Is that a human? Am I seeing things? It's a human, but how can a human fly, the fire that emits holy light? The fireball seems to be under his control. Damn it, he can't be an Eastern Immortal, right? Impossible, absolutely impossible. If he's an Eastern Immortal, why didn't he attack us? What if it is? Damn it, I thought it was strange when the priest was suddenly pulled up to the sky. Now it seems that he must have done it, and then he was attacked by the god of light. But he's fine. While the polar bear players were shocked by the sight of Yi-chun flying in the sky, the burly Najev looked at Yi-chun with a gloomy expression and shouted, "What's wrong? When the archbishop arrives, we'll summon the angels. It'll be easy to kill him." As soon as Najev finished his words, the players from the Polar Bear Empire who had just gotten restless instantly calmed down. In the sky, Yi-chan took out the Sun Flame scroll and controlled the Sun Flame. He looked at the Polar Bear players on the ground and smiled coldly. It would be best if he could summon more of them. He only had Mengpa and Lucifer under his command. If he could summon more of them, he would have more subordinates. Thinking of this, Yi-chan looked directly at the Sun Flame that was being controlled by the Sun Flame scroll and had become a small flame. He had wanted to refine the Sun Flame before, but because he was too busy and only had 2 ruling swords, he could only obtain a limited amount of Sun Flame. Therefore, he had never tried to refine the Sun Flame. Now, that idiot priest used 10 ruling swords to attack me, giving me enough Sun True Fire all at once. Thinking of this, Yi-chan looked at the sun's true flame diagram and the corners of his mouth curled up. He had gotten the Sun Flame scroll from that idiot Liang Fulo. Although it was a one-time use treasure, it had 100% control over the Sun Flame. This way, he wouldn't have to worry about being hurt by the Sun Flame. It was time to refine the Sun Flame. Thinking of this, Yi-chan's primordial spirit moved, and his consciousness instantly went out. Then, it flew straight towards the Sun Flame that had been condensed into a small flame by the Sun Flame scroll. Just as Yi-chan's consciousness came into contact with the Sun Flame, a burning sensation that could burn everything instantly erupted from the small flame that had been condensed into by the Sun Flame. Then, it followed Yi-chan's consciousness and burned towards Yi-chan's physical body and primordial spirit. Sensing this, Yi-chan couldn't help but frown. The Sun Flame scroll clearly had 100% control over the Sun Flame. This shouldn't have happened. Just as Yi-chan thought of this, an almost undetectable soul fluctuation was instantly detected by Yi-chan's consciousness. Sensing this, Yi-chan's eyes suddenly widened. It was the soul of that priest. That F*King Pope really had a lot of tools. He even had tools that could protect souls and allow souls to attach to the Sun Flame. He had F*King predicted that I would refine the Sun Flame. This was wait. How did that F*King Pope know so much about me? Just as Yi-chan thought of this, a name that Yi-chan almost doubted once again appeared in Yi-chan's mind. Qin Yan. It must be that B*T*Sich. F*King Hell. If it wasn't for her, the Pope wouldn't have known so much about me. Qin Yan was a female player who had wanted to become Yi-chan's wife and use Yi-chan to cultivate the supreme unruffled emotion technique. After his rebirth, Yi-chan naturally knew the drawbacks of the supreme unruffled emotion technique. Therefore, at that time, Yi-chan had rejected her without hesitation. Later, Yi-chan had sensed Qin Yan's desire for revenge and directly attacked her. However, at that time, Qin Yan had an invincible Jade Slip and a greater teleportation Jade Slip, so Yi-chan's attack was ineffective. Then, Qin Yan escaped from the newbie area of the 3 kingdoms and ran to the game area where the forces of the Western Church were located. After that, when Yi-chan returned to the real world and destroyed the Gongsun clan, he heard about Qin Yan from the foreign players sent by the Pope to the east. To be more precise, Qin Yan had become the Pope's lover. Now, the Pope had set up one scheme after another against Yi-chan. Obviously, he knew Yi-chan very well. Otherwise, he wouldn't have done it so flawlessly. It was also for this reason that Yi-chan had deduced that Qin Yan had told the Pope all the information about him. At this thought, a cold light flashed in Yi-chan's eyes. F*CK, a woman's heart is really the most vicious. Why go abroad, whether it's the Pope or Qin Yan, they'll all die. At this thought, Yi-chan's eyes suddenly opened. A ball of red lotus hellfire instantly appeared and attached itself to the small flame of the true Sun Flame. With a boom, the red lotus hellfire that had just attached itself to the true Sun Flame exploded instantly. In the next second, a shrill howl rang out. Ouch! Chapter 9:26. Yi Chen laughed coldly when he heard the shriek from the priest's soul. You're just a piece of trash. How dare you plot against me? Just as Yi Chen thought of this, a puff of black smoke suddenly rose from the small flame formed by the grand sun, primordial flame, and disappeared without a trace. At the same time, the burning feeling from the small flame formed by the grand sun, primordial flame, disappeared without a trace. Yi Chen nodded with satisfaction when he realized this. Then his primordial spirit moved and strengthened the divine sense he released. He then rushed towards the small flame of the grand sun, primordial flame, that was covered by the red lotus hellfire. With the grand sun primordial flame diagram controlling the grand sun primordial flame, he could safely refine it. However, the success rate was not 100%. At the thought of this, Yi Chen used his mind and 10 enlightenment stones appeared instantly. After glancing at the 10 enlightenment stones, Yi Chen chose to use them without hesitation. Ding! Congratulations to player Yi Chen for successfully using the enlightenment stones. Enlightenment mode activated. Duration, 10 minutes. After the system notification ended, a mysterious aura suddenly erupted from Yi Chen's body. He could begin. At the thought of this, Yi Chen closed his eyes without hesitation and began to refine the Grand Sun Primordial Flame. The Grand Sun Primordial Flame was one of the 10 most powerful flames in the Eldritch world. It was also one of the reasons why Demon Emperor Di Jun and Emperor Dong could rule the demon race. If Yi Chen could completely refine and control the Grand Sun Primordial Flame, then after he ascended to the Eldritch world, Yi Chen would not only not be afraid of the Grand Sun Primordial Flame of Demon Emperor Di Jun or Emperor Dong, but he could also try to rush into the Sun Palace of Emperor Di Jun Sunstar and snatch the East Emperor Bell of Emperor Dong, who also lived in the Sun Palace. Of course, the premise was that Yi Chen's cultivation was sufficient. Otherwise, he would be tortured. However, this was not important. What was important was that refining the Grand Sun Primordial Flame could not only increase Yi Chen's strength, but also give Yi Chen a chance to snatch the Bell of Chaos before the war between the shaman and demon race. Just as Yi Chen entered the Dao comprehension mode, the mysterious aura that filled Yi Chen's surroundings suddenly erupted. At the same time, the sound of the great Dao resounded in the sky. Polar Bear Players Camp. The tall and sturdy Najiev glanced at Yi Chen, who was sitting cross-legged in midair with his eyes closed. Then, with a wave of his right hand, a jade slip appeared in his hand. Bang! The jade slip that Najiev had just taken out was instantly crushed by Najiev. At this moment, the six-pointed star formation that had been extinguished by the Azure Dragon formation of the Reincarnation Immortal City lit up again at the place where the Crusade army was located. In the next second, 10,000 golden-haired, blue-eyed guards wearing heavy armor and holding giant shields instantly appeared on the battlefield. Boom, boom! The heavily armored foreign guards stepped forward in unison. Then, they advanced 300 meters in the direction of the Reincarnation Immortal City's army. Then, they lined up in a row and inserted their giant shields that were 3 meters tall into the ground. At this moment, another group of 10,000 heavily armored soldiers teleported over. Then, like the previous guards, they moved forward in unison and inserted their giant shields heavily into the ground. The six-pointed star formation lit up continuously, and the heavily armored soldiers kept appearing. It only stopped when the number of heavily armored soldiers reached 500,000. However, in just 2 breaths' time, the six-pointed star formation lit up again. Then, 10,000 foreign men wearing robes and hoods appeared on the battlefield. Just as this group of strange men wearing robes left the six-pointed star formation, another 10,000 men wearing the same robes appeared from the six-pointed star formation and walked out. Batches after batches of men appeared and left the six-pointed star formation. Finally, 500,000 foreign men wearing robes and hoods appeared on the battlefield. Then, 10,000 priests wearing white robes appeared on the six-pointed star formation. At the army of the Reincarnation Immortal City, Seeing the enemies appearing on the battlefield again, Zhao Yun, Dian Xiong, Guan Er, Zhang San, and Huang Sheng looked at each other. Then, they raised their hands and shouted, "Get ready!" At the front yard of the Castellan's mansion in the Reincarnation Immortal City, Gu Yi, Tian Feng, Jia Fujian, Peng Tong, and Chun Kun, who were observing the battlefield through the 3D battlefield map, looked at each other and said in unison, "The Lord must be talking about them. At the army of the Polar Bear Empire. They're here. They're here. The Sorcerer Army is here. Ha ha. Summon the angel. Summon the angel. I want to be a God's servant." Najev didn't lie to us. Damn it. I haven't been happy since this damn game appeared. Now it's different. I'm going to be a God's servant. While the players of the Polar Bear Empire were discussing, the huge six-pointed star formation lit up again. Then, a white-haired foreign elder wearing a red robe appeared on the battlefield with a golden scepter in his hand. He looked amiable at the army of the Eastern players. Seeing the foreign army appear on the battlefield again, the Eastern players were stunned. Damn it, why do those hooded people look like the sorcerers in the Western legends? What do you mean? They look like sorcerers. Damn it, that shouldn't be. Sorcerers can use magic. How can there be such people in the Western world? Yeah, I find it strange too. If they can use magic, damn it. It's like a bug in the game. What's there to be surprised about? Don't forget that our Yi Yu of Gojosian is even more awesome. Do you see? Yi Yu of Gojosian is still flying in the sky. Yi Yu of Gojosian is strong, but Yi Yu of Gojosian's guards aren't that strong. At least, they don't know magic. Don't flatter others and diminish our morale. Sorcerers aren't that awesome. Think about it. A fireball the size of a fart can't do much if it hits armor. Moreover, Yi Yu of Gojosian's guards are equipped with ridiculously strong equipment. Damn, did you forget about Yi Yu of Gojosian? Even if Yi Yu of Gojosian doesn't attack, Yi Yu of Gojosian's army can summon azure dragons, white tigers, and vermilion birds. Damn it, how can I not know? But I feel that this trip isn't going to be easy. There's a dangerous smell in the air. Don't panic. With Yi Yu of Gojosian around, nothing will be a problem. At the location of the mage army, the amiable old man who had just appeared glanced at the Reincarnation Immortal City's army in the distance. Then, he looked up at Yi Chun, who was sitting cross-legged in the sky with his eyes closed. In the next second, the amiable old man smiled and bowed to Yi Chun in the sky in an extremely solemn, aristocratic manner. Red-robed Archbishop Jason and Murik greet Yi Yu of Gojosian. The red-robed Archbishop Jason and Murik's voices weren't loud, but they were extremely penetrative. In the blink of an eye, their voices reached Yi Chen's ears, who was refining the primordial fire of the sun with his eyes closed. Chapter 9:27. In the sky, Yi Chun, who was refining the primordial fire of the sun with his eyes closed, raised his left hand after hearing the red-robed archbishop's words. Then he gave a backhand slap. Slap! Jason Murik, who had just paid his respects to Yi Chun, was slapped in the face. Then he saw the red-robed Archbishop Jason Murika's head slanting to the side as he was sent flying. At this moment, the right side of Jason Murika's face was swollen. After tumbling back and forth for over 100 times, the red-robed Archbishop Jason Murik landed more than 100 meters away with a loud thud. Bastard, if not for the fact that I still need you to summon angels, I would have killed you. At the thought of this, Yi Chun smiled coldly and continued refining the primordial fire of the sun. Just now, Jason Murik had suddenly paid his respects to Yi Chun in order to interrupt Yi Chun's refining process of the primordial fire of the sun. Of course, Jason Murik did not know that Yi Chun was refining the primordial fire of the sun, but he knew that Yi Chun was in a state where he could not be disturbed. It was also because of this that Jason Murik used some kind of secret technique to transmit his words to Yi Chun in the sky and into Yi Chun's ears. Unfortunately, what Jason and Muriel didn't know was that Yi Chun was currently in a state of enlightenment. In such a state, it was impossible for him to be interrupted in his cultivation. Things like sudden enlightenment would never happen. Of course, even if he could not be interrupted, it was impossible for Yi Chun not to teach Jason Murick, the Cardinal of the Vatican, a lesson. However, Yi Chun still needed Jason Murick to summon angels and capture some of them to control with the ancient contract book. Finally, he would bring them to the Nether Mansion and contribute to Yi Chun's plan to take over the Nether Mansion. Cough, 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 cough. Violent coughs sounded as Jason Murick landed on the ground. Huge mouthfuls of blood spurted out of Jason Murick's mouth. At the location of the mage army, when the heavy armored guards, mages, and priests who had just teleported over saw this, they were all stunned. Then, they instantly went into an uproar. What's going on? Didn't the Archbishop have the Staff of Light bestowed by the Pope? How'd he get sent flying with a single slap? I find it strange as well. The Staff of Light didn't even react to the attack. There's only one situation that would lead to such a result. A middle-aged man dressed as a commander suddenly thought of something. His eyes narrowed as he exclaimed, "What's the situation? Yu of Gojoseon, who is flying in the sky, has the ability to directly destroy the Staff of Light. If not, it would be impossible for the Staff of Light not to protect the Arch-Cardinal." How is that possible? Didn't the Pope Lady say that he hasn't become an immortal of the East? Damn it, the Pope's Lady is an Easterner. She must be a spy sent by the Easterners to our Vatican. She purposely said that Yu of Gojoseon is not strong, so as to lure us to attack the Easterners. A trap. This must be a trap. Silence. A priest suddenly shouted. After everyone stopped, the priest said, "No matter what, Yu of Gojoseon is strong. No matter how strong King Yi is, once we summon the angel, everything will turn to dust." The church's army, which had just teleported to the battlefield not long ago, had solemn expressions on their faces as the priest finished his words. They shouted, "The God of Light is with us." At the location of the polar bear army. Damn it, what did I just see? That Arch-Cardinal got sent flying with a single slap? I didn't see wrongly. Damn it, why do I suddenly have a bad feeling? Damn it, where's the angel? Why aren't they summoning the angel? Just as the Polar Bear Empire's players were discussing, the golden staff in the Arch-Cardinal's hand suddenly emitted a golden light. Then, the light enveloped the Arch-Cardinal, Jason Muriel, who was struggling to get up but was unable to do so. In the next second, the Arch-Cardinal's face suddenly turned red before it returned to normal. Phew! After the Arch-Cardinal let out a long sigh, he looked up at Yi Chun, who was still sitting cross-legged in the sky with his eyes closed as he refined the primordial sunfire. At this moment, an inexplicable look of fear appeared in Jason Muriel's eyes. It was obvious that Jason Muriel, who was sent flying by Yi Chun, had a new understanding of Yi Chun. It was a fearful look. Otherwise, he wouldn't have shown such a fearful look. In the next second, the red-cloaked Archbishop, Jason Muriel, looked straight at the polar bear army and shouted, "Let's go. Get ready to pray and welcome the angels." At the location of the polar bear army, when the burly Najev heard the Arch-Cardinal's words, he clenched his right fist and hammered his left chest heavily. In the next second, Najev turned around and looked at the Polar Bear Empire's players as he shouted, "Let's go." He said to the polar bear army, "Your chance to become a servant of God is here. Start praying. Pray to the great God of light." Once Najev finished speaking, the Polar Bear Empire's players instantly became excited. Ha ha! This moment is finally here. God's servant. I want to become the great God of light's servant and serve the God of light forever. Pray, pray. After the noisy and excited shouts, the Polar Bear Empire's players knelt on the ground and put their palms together as they prayed devoutly to the sky. The corners of Najev's mouth curled up slightly when he saw this. He then silently left the area where the Polar Bear army was located. In the distance, the Arch-Cardinal, Jason Muriel, had a crazy look in his eyes when he saw the Polar Bear Empire's players praying. In the next second, the Arch-Cardinal, Jason Muriel, placed the Staff of Light in his right hand horizontally and raised it high. "Welcome the angel." As soon as Jason Muriel finished his words, a white beam of light shot out from the staff of light that he had raised up high. It then shot towards the Polar Bear Empire's army. In the blink of an eye, the white beam of light turned into millions of tiny white rays that pierced through the foreheads of the Polar Bear Empire's players. At this moment, all the players of the Polar Bear Empire, without exception, had holy white light appear on their faces. At the same time, the Polar Bear Empire's players started chanting in unison. It was a language that had never appeared on Earth. It was strange and obscure. As the chanting rose, a white whirlpool suddenly appeared in the originally calm sky. Then, the whirlpool rapidly expanded. Chapter 928. At the location of the reincarnation Immortal City's army, Zhao Yun, Dian Xiong, Guan Er, Zhang San, Huang Sheng, Gao Shun, and Zhang Liao sensed the strange phenomenon in the sky. Their eyes narrowed as they raised their weapons and yelled, "Raise your bows!" Swoosh! The 241 million reincarnation Immortal City soldiers raised their longbows and aimed at the church's army. At the location of the church's army, "Raise your shields!" After a loud roar, the second row of guards behind the heavy armored army raised the giant shields in their hands in unison. At the same time, the sorcerer-like guards and 10,000 priests came to the heavy armored guards and hid under the giant shields. At the location of the Eastern player's army. "Look, they're going to fight. Damn it. I can tell even if you don't tell me. However, I don't understand why Yi Yu of Gojoseon's army didn't summon the Green Dragon. It's better to use the Green Dragon. They can kill all the foreign guards in an instant. There must be some restrictions. Otherwise, they wouldn't use the Green Dragon and attack the church's armed forces in such a pure battle method. That must be it. At the location of the reincarnation Immortal City's army, Zhao Yun, Dian Xiong, Guan Er, Zhang San, Huang Sheng, Gao Shun, and Zhang Liao's eyes widened when they saw the church's army's defense mode. They yelled, "Cycle of life and death, death chi." Buzz, 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 dense buzzing sound were heard. Then the bows and arrows in the 241 million reincarnation Immortal City guards' hands lit up with a gray light. The Green Dragon was mainly made of wood. It could give or take the life of others. The Green Dragon battle formation also had this characteristic of the Green Dragon. After comprehending the Green Dragon battle formation, the guards of the reincarnation Immortal City would automatically obtain the offensive skill of the Green Dragon battle formation, the cycle of life and death. To be more precise, after the army of reincarnation Immortal City used the Azure Dragon battle formation, they could directly deprive the enemy of their life energy. After depriving the enemy of their life energy, they could give the life energy to others or convert the life energy into death energy to attack others. The Green Dragon battle formation was insane. Not only could it kill enemies, but it could also help them. The only downside was that the Green Dragon battle formation had to go through cycle of life and death every time it was used. In other words, they could use the life energy they had plundered on their own side, or convert it into death energy and use it on their enemies. Originally, the army of the reincarnation Immortal City could use the Wheel of Life and Death when they were in the Green Dragon form. However, when the army of the reincarnation Immortal City landed, the army of the Holy Sea had not arrived yet. Therefore, they removed the Green Dragon form. Under such circumstances, if he still wanted to use the Azure Dragon battle formation to evolve the Azure Dragon, he would have to use the life energy that the Azure Dragon battle formation had absorbed. It was also because of this reason that Zhao Yunzheng, Dian Xiong, Guan Er, Huang Sheng, Gao Shun, Zhang Liao, and the other generals did not use the Azure Dragon battle formation again. Instead, they used the cycle of life and death bestowed by the Azure Dragon battle formation. Inject true chi. Zhao Yunzheng, Dian Xiong, Guan Er, Zhang San, and the other generals shouted in unison. The 241 million guards of the reincarnation Immortal City circulated their true chi and poured it into the arrows in their hands. Buzz, 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 the dense buzzing sound rang out once again. Then, a layer of white light suddenly lit up on the arrows that were emitting gray light. When Zhao Yinzheng, Dian Xiong, Guan Er, Zhang San, Gao Shun, Huang Sheng, Zhang Liao, and the others saw this, they all waved the weapons in their hands towards the Holy Sea's Great Protection Department. Shoot! Clank, clank, clank. The sound of arrows leaving the bowstring rang out densely in an instant. Then, too, 41 million gray arrows with a hint of white light rose into the air and shot rapidly towards the Holy Sea's army. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. Arrows filled the sky, blotting out the sun. Reincarnation Immortal City, City Lord's Mansion, Front Yard. Gua Yi, Jia Fujian, Peng Tong, Tian Feng, and Chen Kun, who had been observing the battlefield through the 3D map, nodded in unison. In the next second, Gua Yi, Jia Fujian, Peng Tong, Tian Feng, and Chen Kun pointed at the sky. Wind force. After a shout, a violent explosion suddenly sounded in the sky above the battlefield. Boom! As soon as he finished speaking, a gust of wind rose. Then, the 2,410,000 arrows that were shining with a grayish-white light that covered the sun suddenly accelerated and shot towards the church's army with great ferocity. Where the church's army was, a man dressed as a priest commander who was hiding under a huge shield looked up at the sky filled with arrows. Then, he raised his right hand and yelled, "What are you waiting for? Fireball spell." As soon as the priest commander said that, the church's heavy armored guards tilted their giant shields and revealed the 500,000 church's mages. In the next second, the 500,000 church's mages raised their right hands and shouted, "Fireball spell!" Buzz, buzz, buzz. After the dense buzzing sound, 500,000 fireballs appeared in the hands of the 500,000 church's mages. Then, they flew towards the arrows that covered the sky. At the same time, the priest commander looked at the priest army and shouted, "Sword of Judgment." As soon as the priest commander finished his words, the priest corps summoned a cross in unison. With a thought, the cross shone brightly, and 9,999 gigantic golden swords appeared instantly. Then, they flew toward the army of Reincarnation Immortal City at a high speed. In the next second, the priest commander took out an extremely ornate silver cup, raised it up, and shouted loudly, "Let's go. The holy light is with me." As soon as the priest commander said that, a milky white halo appeared from the silver cup. In the blink of an eye, it enveloped all the guards of the church's army. Reincarnation Immortal City, Front Yard of the City Lord's Mansion. Gua Yi, Jia Fujian, Peng Tong, Tian Feng, and Chen Kun were watching the battlefield through the 3D map. In the next second, everyone raised their hands. Then, without hesitation, they bit their index fingers and drew runes in the air. In the blink of an eye, 5 blood-red runes appeared in the air. At the same time, Gua Yi, Jia Fujian, Peng Tong, Tian Feng, and Chen Kun's eyes narrowed. Then they shouted together, "Anti-magic rune break." As soon as they said that, the blood-red runes lit up and flew into the sky above the battlefield. At this moment, the blood-red light shone brightly. Then 5 blood-red anti-magic runes could be seen. Boom! With an explosion, they turned into a sky full of blood-red swords and flew towards the Sword of Judgment that was charging towards the Reincarnation Immortal City's army. Chapter 9:29. With the appearance of the blood-red swords, the sky above the battlefield instantly became lively. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. The arrows pierced through the sky and covered the sun. Behind them, the blood-red swords filled the sky. Runes flowed and dyed half the sky red. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. Fireballs filled the sky, and the heat was unstoppable. Behind them, the giant golden sword pierced through the wind and shone with golden light. In the next second, the arrows that the Reincarnation Immortal City's army shot at the Holy Sea Army met the fireballs released by the Holy Sea Army head-on. Boom, boom, boom. Intense and concentrated explosions rang out in an instant. At this moment, the fireballs released by the Holy Sea Army exploded and then gathered in the sky. In the blink of an eye, it turned into a sea of fire. Scorching heat, as high as a few thousand degrees, appeared instantly as if it was going to roast and burn everything. Buzz, 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 an incomparably dense, buzzing sound rang out the moment the sea of fire formed. At the same time, the arrows that the reincarnation Immortal City's army shot at the Holy Sea army flashed with white light. Then, they passed through the sea of fire and shot towards the Holy Sea army. What the Holy Sea army was. How is that possible? What kind of arrows are those? How can they be unharmed? Damn it, the information was wrong. The equipment of Yi Chen's armed forces is definitely higher than heaven grade. Calm down. Don't forget that we still have ruling sword. No matter how powerful Yi Chen's army is, they can't withstand ruling sword. Nonsense. I know even if you don't say it. But look at the number of arrows. There are more than 2 million. If ruling sword can't block all the arrows, there will be arrows that will shoot at us. If the arrows really shoot at us, they will definitely penetrate the shield of the heavy armor army. Just as the Holy Sea army's mages were shocked by the fact that the arrows shot by the reincarnation Immortal City's army completely ignored the sea of fire, the priest commander shouted directly, "Silence!" Once the priest commander's words landed, the mages of the mage army immediately stopped their discussions. The priest commander glanced at the mages under the giant shield and then looked at the heavy armor army's guards. Shield of Holy Light. As soon as the priest commander finished speaking, the heavily armored guards who were holding up their giant shields simultaneously waved their right hands and summoned a milky white ball. In the next second, the heavily armored guards of the church's army slammed their right hands onto the giant shields above their heads without hesitation. Pong, pong, pong. Dense explosions rang out in an instant. Then they saw the balls that they had just summoned explode. At this moment, balls of pure white light appeared out of thin air and attached themselves to the giant shield. Buzz, buzz, buzz. After a series of buzzing sounds, a 3-centimeter thick light shield instantly appeared above the giant shield. Seeing this change, the mages of the mage army were all stunned, and then they all fell silent. Obviously, this group of mages did not know about this tool. Otherwise, they would not have shouted and screamed, and they would not have suddenly become silent. Noticing the change in mood of the mages, the priest commander suddenly smiled kindly and said, "Don't worry. This is a gift from the great god of light. All attacks from the mortal world are ineffective against it. When you become official members of the Holy See, not only will you know everything that the Holy See has, but you will also receive the corresponding items." Yes, Honorable Commander Carey. When the mages of the mage army heard this, they were all stunned, and then they bowed and replied in unison. In the sky, the 10,000 giant golden swords that were transformed from the ruling sword met with the 241 million arrows that were shot by the reincarnation Immortal City army. Ding, ding, ding. After the dense collisions, the giant sword that the ruling sword had transformed into suddenly exploded. Boom, boom, boom. After the dense explosions, the giant golden sword turned into extremely small golden swords and continued to fly towards the reincarnation Immortal City army. However, at this moment, the blood-red rune swords that filled the sky suddenly descended and collided with the golden swords. Pong, pong, pong. Low and dense cracking sounds rang out instantly. Then, the blood-red swords broke apart and turned into runes with a mysterious aura that attached themselves to the golden swords. At this moment, the golden swords that were still shining with golden light just now dimmed, and then they fell to the ground, where the church's army was. Seeing this scene in the sky, the priest commander's eyes narrowed, and then he shouted in shock, "How is this possible?" The priest commander never thought that the ruling sword that could easily destroy a mountain would not only be destroyed by the reincarnation Immortal City's arrows, but the golden swords that it turned into were also suppressed by the blood-red swords that were shot by the reincarnation Immortal City. After coming back to his senses, the priest commander's face darkened, and then he shouted, "Quick! Detonate them!" As soon as the priest commander finished his words, the priests of the priest army came back to their senses. Then they hurriedly looked at the golden swords that were falling to the ground and shouted in unison, "Explode!" Boom, boom, boom. extremely dense explosions rang out instantly, and then the golden swords that were controlled by the blood-red runes exploded. At this moment, the scorching and pure white solar primordial fire suddenly appeared and burned the sky. Boom, boom, boom. The arrows that were shot by the reincarnation Immortal City's army were instantly burned into nothingness by the true sun fire. At this moment, Yi Chun, who was cultivating the true sun fire with his eyes closed, suddenly opened his eyes. Then he saw the true sun fire in front of Yi Chun fly directly into Yi Chun's forehead, and then it disappeared. Ding! Congratulations to player Yi Chun for successfully cultivating the true sun fire. As soon as the system's notification ended, the true sun fire that had just flown into Yi Chun's purple mansion rushed into the red lotus divine platform in Yi Chun's purple mansion, and then it disappeared. At the same time, the red lotus divine platform suddenly glowed with white light, and then there were suddenly 9 white spots on the blood-red lotus divine platform. At this moment, the system's notification sounded again. Ding! Congratulations to player Yi Chun. The Red Lotus Divine Platform has evolved into the Great Sun Red Lotus Divine Platform. As soon as the system's notification ended, Yi Chun's eyes widened. What the F***CK? Wasn't the Red Lotus Divine Platform the legendary peak-level Immortal Platform? Why did it evolve again? The Immortal Platform was the foundation for the Yuan Spirit to evolve into an Immortal Spirit. In other words, the Immortal Platform was the root for the Yuan Spirit to transform into an Immortal. If one wanted to establish an Immortal Foundation, they had to first reach the Immortal Foundation realm. Only by establishing an Immortal Foundation would one be able to transcend the Ascension Tribulation and absorb the Immortal Chi into the Immortal Foundation. After that, one's Yuan Spirit would evolve into an Immortal Spirit, and after that, one would ascend and become an Immortal. Back then, Yi Chun, because of a stroke of good fortune, became a primordial cultivator. Because of the reward, he directly skipped the Immortal Foundation realm and entered the Divine Martial realm. Because of a stroke of good fortune, he coincidentally obtained the seed of the Red Lotus of Karmic Fire, which satisfied the hidden requirements of the primordial cultivators, and successfully established the legendary peak-level Immortal Foundation, the Red Lotus Divine Platform. And now, Yi Chun had refined the true sun fire, directly allowing the legendary peak-level Immortal Foundation, the Red Lotus Divine Platform, to evolve. How could Yi Chun, who noticed this, not be shocked? How could he not be puzzled? Of course, other than being puzzled, he was also wild with joy. After all, the Red Lotus Divine Platform had evolved. Chapter 9:30. At this thought, Yi Chun hurriedly looked at the floating Great Sun Red Lotus Immortal Platform below his primordial spirit. Great Sun Red Lotus Immortal Platform. Heavenly Tao Immortal Platform. Extreme Yang. Able to burn all negative energy. Characteristics: 1. Able to gather immortal energy in a large area. 2. Greatly increases comprehension. 3. Greatly increases the power of magic arts. 4. Greatly increases the power of sacred arts. 5. Seek good fortune and avoid calamity. After reading the description of the Great Sun Red Lotus Immortal Platform, Yi Chun's eyes widened. Holy shit! There really was a higher-level Immortal Platform above the Tao Immortal Platform. In Yi Chun's memories, the Tao Immortal Platform was the highest-level Immortal Platform. But now, the Great Sun Red Lotus Immortal Platform clearly told Yi Chun one thing. The Tao Immortal Platform was the highest-level Immortal Platform in the Legends, but it wasn't the highest level. Above it was the Heavenly Tao Immortal Platform. Immortal Platforms were divided into 9 grades. Above them were the Supreme Grade, Peerless Grade, Tao Immortal Platform, Heavenly Tao. There was a Great Tao above the Heavenly Tao. In other words, there should be a Great Tao Immortal Platform above the Heavenly Tao Immortal Platform. How could he advance to the Great Tao Immortal Platform? At this thought, Yi Chun looked at the description of the Great Sun Red Lotus Immortal Platform again. After a few seconds, Yi Chen's eyes widened. Compared to before, the Great Sun Red Lotus Immortal platform had an additional extreme yang attribute. This should be the key. Tao begets one, one begets two, two begets three, three begets all things. One was Tao, two was yin and yang. The Grand Sun True Fire was extreme yang. If he could get the Grand Moon True Fire, extreme yin and extreme yang, he could gather yin and yang and then merge them to form Tao. This way, the Great Sun Red Lotus Immortal platform would advance to the Great Tao Immortal platform. In other words, the Grand Moon True Fire, one of the 10 Great Flames of the Chaos Era, was the key. The Grand Sun True Fire was one of the 10 Great Flames of the Chaos Era. It had appeared in the game world. Wait, there was another place in the Three Kingdoms Beginners area that had one of the 10 Great Flames of the Chaos Era. The volcano where King Zhun forged the 12 bronze men. Let's hope that the flame there's one of the 10 Great Flames of the Chaos Era. If there really is, then I can directly upgrade my Immortal Foundation to Great Tao Immortal Foundation before I ascend. Thinking of this, Yi Chen's eyes lit up. The higher the grade of the Immortal Foundation, the greater the benefits a cultivator could obtain. For example, during Ascension, the immortal chi that appeared automatically would only be absorbed by others at most 10% to 20%. But now that Yi Chen had already broken through to the heavenly Tao Immortal Foundation realm, he was completely capable of absorbing all the immortal chi. This way, Yi Chen's primordial spirit would receive the greatest boost when it transformed into an immortal spirit. This was only the first benefit. If Yi Chen's comprehension ability, the power of his spells, and the power of his divine abilities were added to the list, then Yi Chen's benefits would be even greater. This was also the reason why Yi Chen was so desperate to obtain the lunar primordial flame when he sensed that he could advance his immortal foundation once again. If I get it, it's my fortune. If I don't, it's my fate. Although this saying is true, I have great luck now, and I'm the son of destiny. My luck shouldn't be too bad. Thinking of this, Yi Chen looked directly at the lunar primordial flame, which was still burning the arrows fired by the Reincarnation Immortal City's army. Even an ant wants to overturn the heavens. After thinking, Yi Chen raised his right hand and sucked in the air. Boom! With a loud sound, the lunar primordial flame, which was still burning the arrows, suddenly gathered together and turned into a fireball. In the blink of an eye, it flew to Yi Chen's side and disappeared without a trace. In the next second, more than 200,000 arrows that had not been burned were unimpeded and shot towards the Holy Sea's army, where the Reincarnation Immortal City's army was. Seeing that Yi Chen had awakened, Zhao Yun, Dian Xiong, Guan Er, Zhang San, Huang Sheng, Gao Shun, and the other generals who had extinguished the lunar primordial flame, as well as the Reincarnation Immortal City's guards, knelt on one knee and shouted excitedly, "Greetings, Lord!" The 2,410,000 Reincarnation Immortal City's guards shouted loudly, and their voices shook the sky. Previously, Zhao Yun, Dian Xiong, Guan Er, Zhang San, Huang Sheng, Gao Shun, and the other generals, as well as the Reincarnation Immortal City's guards, saw that Yi Chen was burned by the lunar primordial flame and went berserk. After comprehending the Green Dragon battle formation and destroying the Crusade army of the Holy See, they immediately wanted to transfer their life energy to Yi Chen. However, Yi Chen stopped them. This was because Yi Chen did not need it. After hearing Yi Chen's words, the Reincarnation Immortal City's army believed Yi Chen's words. However, they were still worried deep in their hearts. However, the army of the Reincarnation Immortal City and the generals of the Reincarnation Immortal City were relieved to see Yi Chen safe and sound. They began to cheer excitedly. Yi Chen's heart felt warm when he heard the cheers from the army and generals. Then he looked at the sky in the distance. The whirlpool was still expanding and twisting. The summoning was about to be completed at the location of the Holy Sea's army. After seeing Yi Chen destroy the sea of fire formed by the lunar primordial flame, the guards of the Holy Sea's army were shocked. Then, they burst into an uproar. How is this possible? What realm is he at? That is the sacred flame. How can an ordinary person destroy the sacred flame? God, please tell me that what I saw is not real. I don't believe it. This is fake. It must be fake. Just as the guards of the church's army were shouting in shock, because Yi Chun had casually extinguished the sea of fire formed by the primordial flame of the sun, more than 20 arrows emitting a grayish-white glow instantly descended. Poof, poof, poof. The sound of arrows piercing through objects was heard densely in an instant. The giant shields covered by the 3-centimeter-thick light shield were penetrated by the arrows in an instant. Then, the heavily armored guards under the shield were nailed to the ground one by one. The eyes of the guards of the church's army shrank as they sensed the passing of the Holy See army. At this moment, a series of explosions sounded instantly. Boom, boom, boom. The guards of the Holy See who were nailed to the ground by the arrows were all blown up without exception. At the same time, more than 200,000 gray gas that was filled with the aura of death exploded and engulfed the Holy See's army in an instant. This is... The priest commander, who was engulfed by the gray gas of death, narrowed his eyes and shouted in shock. However, before he could finish his sentence, he saw his corpse shrivel up at a speed visible to the naked eye. In the blink of an eye, he became a dried corpse. Like him, the heavily armored guards, the mage army, and the priest army were also engulfed by the gas of death. As far as the eye could see, the ground was covered with dried corpses. When the wind blew, dust flew in all directions. Then, the guards of the Holy See's army were turned into dust from head to toe. Chapter 9:31. The tragic deaths of the Vatican's army instantly attracted the attention of the Eastern players in the distance. At this moment, the Eastern players widened their eyes and were in an uproar. F***CK. What? What's going on? It's one thing for the millions of soldiers to be turned into dried corpses and ashes after being attacked by the Azure Dragon. But why are they being turned into dried corpses after being attacked by the arrows of the reincarnation immortal city? I don't know. I only saw the flames in the sky and the explosions in the distance. F***CK. That scene is too awesome. It's not just awesome. F***CK. It doesn't make any sense. Yi Yu of Gojoseon is powerful. He was powerful from the start. Why are the foreign players so powerful? What's so awesome about that? Didn't you see that they were easily destroyed by Yi Yu of Gojoseon's army? F***CK. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about how they can use such beautiful attacks, but we can only fight with our weapons. I guess their training methods are different. For example, those mages can release fireballs. Have you thought about it before? You haven't, right? Me too. But they can F***king release fireballs. If only I could raise my hand and release a fireball, that would be great. What's there to be envious of? Think about Yi Yu of Gojoseon. He's an Eastern player, and his cultivation method is exactly the same as ours. As long as we continue to become stronger, we can fly on our swords, fly in the air, and summon a sea of fire with a raise of our hands. We don't have to be envious of those foreign players. That's right. What's there to be envious of? No matter how powerful they are and how many items they have, they were still defeated by Yi Yu of Gojoseon. They're useless. While the Eastern players were discussing the battle between the reincarnation immortal city and the Vatican, one of the Eastern players froze for a moment before he yelled, "That's right, the Holy See. Look, there's something wrong with the polar bear players." As soon as this player finished speaking, the Eastern players all looked towards where the polar bear players were, and they were all stunned. F***CK. These polar bear players seem to be in a lot of pain. They're all shivering. What do you mean by seems? It's clearly the case. Look at their bodies. They seem to be losing water. It doesn't seem like it. It's real. Do you think their sudden change has anything to do with the white vortex in the distant sky? Who the hell knows? Just as the Eastern players were having a heated discussion about the polar bear players, the red-cloaked archbishop who was holding the staff of light in his hand quietly looked at the white whirlpool in the sky. He glanced at the spot where the Holy See's army had been reduced to dust and disappeared without a trace. Then, his face darkened. At this moment, An angry roar sounded from where the polar bear army was. Nagyev, I feel terrible. Quickly tell the arch-cardinal to stop. I can't move. As soon as the polar bear player finished speaking, the other polar bear players who were struggling to hold on stopped praying and tried to move their bodies. In the next second, the expressions of all the players from the polar bear empire changed. What's going on? I can't move either. Me too. D*M*. What's going on? Not far away. Nagyev, who didn't participate in the prayers, heard the cries of the polar bear army. He immediately recovered from the shock of seeing the Holy Sea's army being annihilated. He looked at the polar bear empire's players and shouted, "If you want to become a servant of God, you have to undergo a baptism of your body and spirit. This is a necessary process. I went through it in the past too. Only through the baptism can you undergo a qualitative transformation. Hold on, it'll be over soon. Once the angel descends, it'll be over. Then, you'll all become a servant of God like me. Moreover, this is a game world. You won't really die." As soon as Nagyev finished speaking, the Polar Bear Empire's players were stunned. Then, they gave up shouting and closed their eyes to continue praying. In the distance, the red-cloaked Archbishop, Jason Murick, saw the Polar Bear Empire's players start praying again. He glanced at the burly Nagyev and gave him an inexplicable look. Nagyev, who was standing near the Polar Bear Empire's players, saw the red-cloaked Archbishop's look and nodded. Then, he took out a bottle of unknown blood-red powder. In the next second, Nagyev didn't hesitate to throw the bottle at the Polar Bear Empire's players. The moment the bottle reached the middle of the Polar Bear Empire's players, it exploded. Then, red powder filled the sky and enveloped the Polar Bear Empire's players below. At the same time, Nagyev's feet moved crazily as he ran toward the red-cloaked Archbishop, Jason Murick, at the location of the Eastern Army's players. D*MN, did you see that? That Polar Bear Empire's player seems to be plotting against the Polar Bear Empire's players who are praying. What do you mean by seems? It's obvious. Otherwise, why didn't he join in the prayers? Why did he throw an exploding bottle? Who cares? It's a dog-eat-dog situation. Just as the Eastern Army's players were discussing, the red powder that exploded in the air landed on the Polar Bear Empire's players. In the next second, bursts of red light shone from the Polar Bear Empire's players. At the same time, the Polar Bear Empire's players who were praying with their eyes closed instantly froze on the spot when they heard the prayers. Continue praying. The red-cloaked Archbishop, Jason Murick, shouted when he saw this. Once Jason Murick finished his words, the Polar Bear Empire's players started praying loudly. In the next second, a strong aura of life appeared from the Polar Bear Empire's players and flew toward the expanding white vortex in the sky. In the sky, Yi Chun sneered when he saw what happened to the Polar Bear Empire's players. A bunch of fools who were fooled. Continue praying. Pray with all your might. The angel is coming. Thinking of this, Yi Chun waved his right hand, and the god-slaying weapon appeared instantly. Then, he looked at the expanding white vortex in the distance. Yi Chun could easily kill the red-cloaked Archbishop, but Yi Chun didn't do so because they wanted to summon angels from the mortal world. In Yi Chun's opinion, the more angels there were, the better. This way, Yi Chun would be able to capture more angels. As for the angels that were summoned, Yi Chun didn't care about them at all. That was because Yi Chun still had the nine-tailed celestial fox, who was as strong as a divine immortal, and Meng Pa, who was as strong as a golden immortal, could be summoned at any time. With them around, it didn't matter how many angels there were. That was because the strongest god of light was only in the Daluo Jinxian realm. No matter how strong the angels were, how strong could they be? Chapter 9:32. On the ground, the red-cloaked Archbishop, Jason Muriel, who was holding the Staff of Light and presiding over the summoning array, had a change in expression when he saw Yi Chun take out the god-slaying weapon. Damn it, Yi Chun won't attack directly, right? Could it be that his nonchalant attitude was fake? If Yi Chun immediately attacked the Polar Bear Army, the summoning array would automatically be interrupted, and all their previous efforts would be wasted. This was the reason why the Red Archbishop Jason Muriel's expression changed drastically when he sensed that Yi Chun had summoned the god-slaying weapon. The red-cloaked Archbishop was full of worry. Then he saw that Yi Chun didn't do anything other than take out the god-slaying weapon. After realizing this fact, the Archcardinal Jason Muriel immediately heaved a sigh of relief. Following that, his eyes immediately revealed a look of relief and viciousness. Keep pretending, keep pretending. When the angel descends, it will be the time of your death. Thinking of this, the red-cloaked Archbishop secretly glanced at Yi Chun. Then he looked up at the white vortex in the sky that was getting bigger and bigger. It's coming, just as the red-cloaked Archbishop thought of this. Negiev, who had come to his side, suddenly bowed to him sincerely. Negiev greets the red-cloaked Archbishop. When the red-cloaked Archbishop heard Negiev's words, disdain flashed in his eyes. However, it disappeared without a trace. The next second, the red-cloaked Archbishop looked at Negiev with a warm expression and said, "You did well. From today onwards, you are officially the 13th Knight of the Vatican." "Thank you, red-cloaked Archbishop. I, Negiev, swear to forever be loyal to the Pope and the red-cloaked Archbishop." Negiev was overjoyed when he heard this. He then bowed to Jason Muriel solemnly. In the sky, Yi Chun, who had heard the conversation between Negiev and Jason Muriel, smiled coldly. I was wondering why Negiev was willing to be the lackey of the Vatican and betray the Polar Bear Empire. He even killed millions of Polar Bear Empire's players. So it was because of the 13th Knight of the Vatican. The Western Vatican had the inheritance of the 12 Knights of the Vatican. Anyone who obtained the inheritance of the 12 Knights would have their strength increase by leaps and bounds. They would also have unique skills. It was rumored that any of the 12 Knights could summon archangels, such as seraphs, angels, and so on. It was for this reason that the 12 Knights were the core power of the Vatican. They were not only powerful, but they were also absolutely loyal to the Vatican and had absolute faith in the God of Light. After the 12 Knights of the Empire's position, the 13th Knight. The 13th Knight also had a legacy, but it couldn't be compared to the legacy of the 12th Knight. Once when the 12 Knights died in battle, the 13th Knight would automatically take the place of the 12 Knights who died in battle. Then, the Vatican's wills the 13th wills Archbishop, Yi Chun had killed Gongsun Ji from the Gongsun clan, who was Qin Yan's half-brother. With Qin Yan's help, he had qualified for the trial of the 13th Knight. If Gongsun Ji brought the Medicine Lord's Encyclopedia of the Medicine Lords back to the Vatican, Gongsun Ji would become the 13th Knight. Unfortunately, Yi Chun stabbed Gongsun Ji to death, and Yi Chun took the Encyclopedia of the Medicine Lord and used it to train an alchemist. If it weren't for the fact that I'm going to conquer the West and destroy the Vatican, I would have kept this guy alive. At least he's ruthless and sinister enough. It's fine if it's only for a short time, but as time goes on, this guy will definitely betray the Vatican and cause chaos in the Vatican. As Yi Chun thought of this, the prayers of the Polar Bear Empire's players suddenly became louder. Then, the Polar Bear Empire's players, whose eyes were bulging and whose bodies were unbelievably shriveled, opened their eyes and let out the last roar of their lives. Hallelujah! Then, the souls of millions of Polar Bear Empire's players suddenly appeared from their bodies and flew into the sky toward the white vortex that had stopped expanding. Seeing this, Yi Chun's eyes suddenly widened. Those F***ers are about to appear. At the location of the Eastern Players' Army, seeing the souls of the Polar Bear Empire's players suddenly fly into the sky and stop expanding the white vortex, the Eastern players were all stunned. Then, they burst into an uproar. F***CK. F***CK. Those are souls? Am I F***king seeing things? No, they're souls. What the F***CK? Can the souls of the players be seen? F***CK. That's not the point. The point is that we use souls to enter the game world. F***CK. Why do I suddenly have a F***king creepy feeling? F***CK me too. F*CK. That archbishop in the red robe and that idiot beside him are going to kill the Polar Bear Empire's players completely? Otherwise, how can we see their souls and see them flying into the white vortex in the sky? Do you think they're going to ascend and become immortals? Oh no. Ascending and becoming immortals only exists in the East. They must have entered heaven. F*CK. Aren't they going to die after entering heaven? That's not for sure. Don't forget what the world has become. You might not die after entering heaven. You might even become a god. Don't be ridiculous. From the actions of the Polar Bear Empire's players and the red-robed archbishop, it's obvious that they're up to no good. Then, what do you think they're doing? Do you remember that when the underground secret realm was opened, Yu of Gojosian attacked the underground secret realm and a vortex appeared? How can I not remember? F*CK. Back then, the howling celestial dog's mountain-sized head gave me a huge fright. You're saying that monsters will come out of the white vortex in the sky. They might not be monsters. They might be F*Curs. F*CK. Angels? No way. Do angels really exist in this world? Why not? Don't forget that the howling celestial dog appeared and was subdued by Yu of Gojosian. If angels really come out, will they drop good items after killing them? Are you kidding? Angels? F*CK. If you dare to fight them, I'm sure you'll be turned into ashes in one move. Just as the Eastern players were discussing amongst themselves, the souls of the Polar Bear Empire's players flew into the white vortex in the sky that had stopped expanding. At this moment, a boom sound was heard. Then a white ripple directly exploded at the vortex. Then it turned into circle after circle of ripples, rapidly spreading out. In the next second, a handsome man in white armor with a pair of wings on his back and a golden sword in his hand flew out of the vortex. Chapter 9:33. Yi-Chen's eyes widened when he saw the birdmen that suddenly appeared from the whirlpool. They're here. Thinking of this, Yi-Chen's mind moved, and the space in front of him suddenly began to distort. He shouted, "Meng Pa!" As soon as Yi-Chen finished speaking, a black whirlpool appeared out of thin air. In the next second, Meng Pa slowly rose from the black whirlpool. When Meng Pa completely appeared from the black whirlpool disappeared, and Meng Pa bowed to Yi-Chen. "Greetings, young master." When Yi-Chen heard this, he nodded and said, "Wait a moment. Not all the birdmen are here yet." "Yes, young master." When Meng Pa heard this, she glanced at the angel that appeared from the white whirlpool and nodded in response. At the location of the Eastern players' army, seeing the angel that suddenly appeared from the white whirlpool, the Eastern players widened their eyes. F*CK. F*CK. Look, it's really a birdman. Ah, no, it's an angel. F*CK. Are you kidding me? That red-cloaked archbishop can really summon angels? Even Yu of Gojosian can't do that. Who says he can't? Look at the beauty beside Yu of Gojosian. She wasn't here a moment ago, but now she's here. She's also very respectful to Yu of Gojosian. She's definitely a celestial summoned by Yu of Gojosian. F*CK. It's true. This is going to be interesting. An angel versus a celestial. Hee. Who do you think will be abused? Needless to say, the birdmen will definitely be abused. Don't forget, our Easter celestials are all awesome. It's very easy for them to abuse the birdmen. I say, didn't you notice anything strange? Celestials are high and mighty existences. Even if they were summoned, they shouldn't be so respectful to Yu of Gojosian, right? Nonsense. Whoever summoned them has the authority. How can they not be respectful? Look, more birdmen are coming out. There are a lot of them. Just as the Eastern players were discussing amongst themselves, a large number of angels suddenly flew out of the white vortex in the sky. They covered the sky and covered the earth in an endless stream. On the ground, the Pope, who was holding the staff of light, saw this scene. His face, which was originally filled with joy because of the arrival of the angel, instantly turned into a twisted face. At this moment, An angel with 4 wings on his back suddenly flew out of the white vortex. He spread his wings and stopped in midair. Red Archbishop Jason Muriel greets Lord Archangel. When Jason Muriel saw this, his old face became even more excited. Then he bowed to the 4-winged angel and said loudly, "Greetings, Lord Archangel. Greetings, angels." The tall and sturdy Najiev, who had already been conferred the title of the 13th Knight, hurriedly bowed and said loudly. In the sky, the archangel with 4 pure white wings glanced at the red-clothed protagonist and Najiev when he heard this. Then he looked straight at Yi Chun and Granny Meng, who were hovering in midair in the distance. He asked Granny Meng, "Yi Chun, you have killed countless people. Your crimes are heinous. Do you know your sins?" Yi Chun frowned when he heard the 4-winged angel's words. "Damn it, I actually have a name among the gods of the mythological world of hope." Yi Chun couldn't be blamed for thinking this. After all, the 4-winged angel had just descended, and he hadn't asked the red-clothed archbishop anything. Yet, he still shouted out Yi Chun's name. What did this mean? It was very simple. They all knew of Yi Chun. They even knew of Yi Chun's past and Yi Chun's appearance. Otherwise, they wouldn't have shouted out Yi Chun's name the moment they arrived. Did the Pope say this, or did the God of Light notice me subduing Lucifer? Who cares how he found out? If he remembers me, then so be it. I'll have to make a trip to the mythological world of the Western mythological world sooner or later. Just as Yi Chun thought of this, the 4-winged angel, who discovered that Yi Chun did not give any response, was immediately enraged. He pulled out the golden longsword at his waist with a whoosh and pointed it at Yi Chun from afar. "Sinner, do you know your sins?" Following the 4-winged angel's fury, an earth-shattering pressure appeared and blasted toward Yi Chun. Yi Chun, who sensed this, smiled coldly. At this moment, Granny Meng, who was beside Yi Chun, moved her feet and appeared in front of Yi Chun in an instant. Then, she waved her left hand casually. There was a loud boom. The 4-winged angel's pressure that was comparable to an Earth Immortal's was instantly dispersed by Granny Meng's attack. In the distance, the 4-winged angel, who was about to continue attacking, narrowed his eyes when he saw this. The tens of thousands of angels behind him all had expressions of disbelief. The 4-winged angel, who sensed that something was wrong with Granny Meng, looked at her and asked in a deep voice, "Who are you?" Granny Meng glanced at the 4-winged archangel and said, "That's not the case." Granny Meng. The 4-winged angel tried his best to recall, but he couldn't recall this person. After a brief moment of confusion, the 4-winged archangel tried his best to put on a calm expression. He then looked at Meng Pa and asked, He looked at Granny Meng and asked, "Lady Granny Meng, do you know how sinful the person behind you is?" Granny Meng glanced at the 4-winged angel and asked, "Even if his sins are greater than the heavens, so what?" The 4-winged angel's face darkened when he heard this. Then he raised the sword in his right hand and shouted, "Retreat!" Yi Chun, who was about to attack, was stunned when he heard the 4-winged angel's words. F***CK. His aura was so powerful, but he didn't order an attack. Instead, he wanted to run on the ground. The red-cloaked archbishop, Jason, Muriel, and Najiev, who were waiting for the angel army to show their might, were stunned when they heard the 4-winged angel's words. Where the Eastern player army was. F***CK. Am I hallucinating? Did that 4-winged birdman just say he wanted to run? You didn't hallucinate. He really said he was retreating. F***CK. His entrance was awesome, but he became a coward in the blink of an eye. Look, the birdmen are really retreating. In the sky, Yi Chun, who saw the angels turn around and fly toward the white vortex without hesitation, opened his eyes wide. F***CK. I may not have the strength of an Earth Immortal or a Heaven Immortal, and I haven't mastered the Space Tao, but I can still stop you from crawling through the dog hole. At this thought, Yi Chun's primordial spirit moved, and he clenched his right hand. Boom! The white vortex in the distance suddenly began to distort, and then it began to distort again. Granny Meng smiled when she saw this. Then, she said, Young master, you've mastered the space Tao. Young master, your mastery of the space Tao is not bad, but you still need to improve. Otherwise, you might be at a disadvantage when you reach the primeval age. Yichen was stunned when he heard this. Granny Ming didn't attack directly just now because she wanted to see my mastery of the space Tao. F***, that must be it. Yichen's mouth twitched at this thought. At this moment, Granny Ming's feet moved, and she instantly appeared in front of the white vortex that was forcibly twisted by Yichen's spatial power. Chapter 9:34. Yichen let out a long sigh when he saw Meng effortlessly blocking the path of the angel army that wanted to retreat to heaven. Meng probably knows something, but she can't say it out loud. Otherwise, she wouldn't have deliberately checked on my cultivation of the space Tao and told me that I have to continue improving. When Yichen thought of this, his eyes narrowed. It seems like the dangers of ascending to Eldritch World are more severe than I imagined. So be it. I have plenty of Tao comprehension stones. I just lack time. Yichen looked at the angel army that was blocked by Meng Pe. They couldn't help but stop flying. Their expressions were extremely gloomy. If I kill these angels, I'll gain a lot of experience. If they surrender, then forget it. If they don't, then I'll kill them. I can't let them go to waste. In front of the white vortex that was forcefully distorted by Yi Chen's spatial power. Esteemed Goddess Meng Pe, we have no intention of offending your dignity. Please let us go. The four-winged angel leader looked at Meng Pe, who had a slim figure and no aura of a powerhouse, and forced himself to remain calm. Meng Pe was very young. No matter how one looked at her, she was an ordinary person. However, the four-winged angel leader didn't think so. If the four-winged angel leader had felt that Meng Pe was dangerous because she had casually destroyed his aura, then now, Meng Pe gave him the feeling that she was an abyss of hell. That was because the tens of thousands of angels, including him, were all blocked by a wall of air. No matter how they flew or used their strength, they couldn't break through it. They couldn't even take a detour. What did this mean? Without a doubt, it was the suppression of realms. It was a crushing suppression. After hearing the four-winged angel leader's words, Meng Pe glanced at him indifferently and said, "Surrender. You can live. Otherwise, you will die." Meng Pe's words were simple and straightforward. Moreover, they sounded very calm. However, the expressions of the angel leader and the tens of thousands of angels changed. That was because they had been threatened. Moreover, it was a simple, crude, and inhumane threat. "Goddess Meng Pe, why can't you let us go? We aren't enemies with you." The four-winged angel leader tried his best to stabilize his suddenly beating heart. He then looked at Meng Pe and asked. When Meng Pe heard this, she moved her feet and instantly appeared in front of the four-winged angel leader. Then she punched out. Bang! The four-winged archangel's chest was instantly shattered. Then, a huge bloody hole appeared on the four-winged archangel's body. At the same time, a large amount of golden blood gushed out of the bloody hole like it was free. In the next second, a violent coughing sound was heard. Cough, 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 cough. At the same time, large mouthfuls of blood gushed out of the four-winged angel's mouth. The four-winged archangel lowered his head and looked at the bloody hole in his chest. He then looked at Meng Pe and said in an extremely serious tone, "Goddess Meng Pe of the East, are you satisfied? You see, I didn't resist. This proves my sincerity. I really didn't mean to offend you. Please let us go." Hearing this, Meng Pe glanced indifferently at the four-winged angel leader who was still alive despite having a bloody hole in his body. Then, she said, "Birdmen below archangels are indeed, as Lucifer said. They all have special constitutions that are neither yin nor yang. Even if their bodies are broken, they won't die so easily." When the four-winged angel leader heard this, the calmness that he was still pretending to be strong instantly disappeared without a trace. The surrounding angels looked at each other one by one, and then revealed an inexplicable expression of shock. Meng Pe glanced at the four-winged angel leader whose expression suddenly changed and said, "It's easy to destroy you. It's easy to destroy all of you. Now, I'll give you one more chance. Make your choice or die. Lord, Lord Lucifer has already submitted to you? The four-winged angel hurriedly asked when he heard this. Not far away, Yi Chun was stunned when he heard the four-winged angel leader's words. Damn, aren't angels loyal to the god of light? Why does this four-winged angel leader respect the traitor Lucifer so much? Could he be Lucifer's former subordinate? Damn, that might really be the case. Looks like subduing these angels will be a lot easier this time. Just as Yi Chun was thinking about this, Mengpa shook her head and said, Lucifer is only my assistant. Lucifer is only my assistant. The one he serves is the young master, the sinner you just spoke of. Gulp. The four-winged angel leader swallowed a mouthful of saliva before shouting in shock. That's impossible. Yi Yu of Gojoseon still hasn't become an immortal of the East. How could he subdue the darkness over God, Lord Lucifer? It's up to you to believe it or not. Now, tell me your choice. Mengpa glanced indifferently at the four-winged angel leader before saying, believe it or not. Now, tell me your choice. When the four-winged angel leader heard this, he immediately fell silent. After a while, he suddenly turned around and looked at the distant Yi Chun before bowing. Esteemed Yi Yu of Gojoseon, we would like to meet you. Lord Lucifer, is that possible? When Yi Chun heard this, he glanced at the four-winged angel and said, submit and submit. Submit. See. Otherwise die. This. When the four-winged angel leader heard this, he was stunned and said in a daze, this. When Yi Chun saw this, he waved his right hand, and a fireball formed from true fire of the sun appeared and flew towards the angel army. Seeing the fireball of true fire of the sun flying towards them, over 10,000 angels narrowed their eyes and shouted in shock, fire! Divine fire of light. As soon as he finished speaking, the fireball arrived and exploded with a boom. In that instant, hundreds of small flames flew out and attached themselves to the angels who wanted to escape but couldn't move at all. Boom, boom, boom. There was a loud explosion. Then, the hundreds of angels that were touched by the grand sun primordial flame were set ablaze. Then, they burned fiercely. Mournful howls rang out one after another. When the four-winged angel leader saw this, his eyes narrowed and he shouted in shock, how is it possible? Divine fire of light is the exclusive flame of the god of light. How? When Yi Chun heard the four-winged angel leader's exclamation, he curled his lips in disdain and shouted, now, tell me, what do you choose? When Yi Chun said this, the four-winged angel leader and the surrounding angels looked at each other and shouted in unison, we are willing to submit. We are willing to submit. When the four-winged angel leader and the other angels said this, the angels who were being burned miserably by the true fire of the sun hurriedly shouted, my lord, I'm also willing to submit. Quickly take the true fire of light. My lord, I'm also willing to submit. When Yi Chun heard this, he couldn't help but raise his eyebrows. Then, with a thought, he withdrew the true fire of the sun that was ruthlessly burning the angels. Just at this moment, a shriveled yet incomparably real, huge hand suddenly emerged from the white whirlpool seed, after which it ruthlessly swatted towards Yi Chun. Chapter 935. Yi Chun's expression changed when he saw the giant withered hand that suddenly came out of the white whirlpool and slapped towards him. Damn it, the god of light can actually cross worlds to attack me. Although the giant withered hand did not release any aura and did not look powerful, it instantly locked onto Yi Chun, rendering him immobile. To be able to do this, one had to be at least a celestial immortal. This was because Yi Chun's divine sense had already reached the level of an earth immortal. Without a power that could crush Yi Chun, it would be impossible to lock onto Yi Chun. In addition, the giant withered hand flew out of the white whirlpool. It was easy to deduce that the giant withered hand came from the Western mythological world, and the only one who hated Yi Chun so much that he wanted to destroy Yi Chun at the cost of being devoured by the laws of heaven and earth was the god of light, in the Western mythological world. This was because Yi Chun had subdued Lucifer and given him the godhead of the Lord of Darkness, making Lucifer the Lord of Darkness in the Western mythological world. More importantly, Yi Chun had subdued the angel army sent by the God of Light. What did this mean? There was no doubt that this was a slap to the God of Light's face, and it was the kind that made a lot of noise. As for the God of Light sending others to attack Yi Chun, it did not exist. This was because the other gods in the Western mythological world did not have the power of the God of Light and could not cross worlds to attack Yi Chun. If they attacked forcefully, they would probably be crushed into powder by the laws of heaven and earth. Damn the God of Light. Just as Yi Chun thought of this, the staff of light in the hands of the red-cloaked Archbishop, Jason Muriel, suddenly flew up and flew towards the giant withered hand. In the blink of an eye, it exploded. At this moment, a large amount of golden light erupted and attached to the giant withered hand. Jason Muriel, who was in disbelief and shock because of the collective betrayal of the angel army, was stunned when he saw this. Najev, who was beside Jason Muriel, stared at the changes in the sky with his eyes wide open and stuttered, Archbishop, this? What's going on? I don't know either. Jason Muriel swallowed his saliva and replied, at the location of the Eastern Player Army. F***CK. Those angels were just forced to submit to Yi of Gojosian, and a giant hand appeared. Who can tell me what's going on? Who the F***CK knows? But I have a feeling that Yi of Gojosian is in danger. I don't think so. Look at that withered giant hand. It was originally very fast, but now it's getting slower and slower. Just as the Eastern players were chatting amongst themselves, the angels who had just chosen to submit in the sky suddenly emitted thick black smoke. Then the white wings on their backs turned black, and then black again. At the same time, a mournful howl was heard. The angels of the angel army were trembling violently as they howled. Even so, their gazes didn't leave the giant withered hand that had just appeared. That's the God of Light. The God of Light is attacking us from another world. No, he's attacking Yi of Gojosian. Damn it, we can't let him succeed. Otherwise, Lord Lucifer won't spare us, but we're falling, and we can't move at all. Moreover, we're no match for the God of Light. Just as the angels were shouting amongst themselves, the four-winged angel looked at Mengpa and shouted, Venerable Mengpa, please hurry up and attack. Respected Goddess Mengpa, please act quickly. Otherwise, King Yi will die. The moment the four-winged archangel finished speaking, Mengpa shook her head and looked at Yi Chun. Young master, the Western god's attack from another world will attract the attention of the primordial world. Mengpa can't act rashly. Otherwise, it'll bring greater danger to you. Young master, please believe in Mengpa. Mengpo's heart is with you. If anything happens to you, Mengpa will follow you. Mengpa finished speaking and bowed deeply to Yi Chun. Then, she turned into a cloud of black smoke and disappeared without a trace. Seeing this, Yi Chun let out a long sigh. Then he focused his eyes and used the golden gaze fiery eyes. Boom! In that instant, two balls of fire lit up in Yi Chun's eyes. Then, he saw two beams of golden light shooting straight at the withered hand that was covered by the golden light. The withered hand sped up once more before slowing down again. Even if I can't withstand your attack, I'll cripple your claws before I die. At this thought, Yi Chun's 9 revolutions mystic art instantly activated. At the same time, in his purple mansion, Yi Chun's primordial spirit, who was sitting cross-legged on the celestial platform of the great sun red lotus, opened his eyes. Boom! A domineering aura appeared from Yi Chun's body in an instant, and then directly soared into the sky. At this moment, the sky changed color and the sea of clouds surged. In the next second, Yi Chun, who was locked in place and unable to move, stepped forward with his right foot. Boom! The air exploded and ripples spread in all directions. Puff! A big mouthful of blood spurted out from Yi Chun's mouth in an instant. My lord! Angry and worried roars instantly rose from the army of the reincarnation immortal city and soared into the sky. In the sky, Yi Chun, who heard the shouts of his subordinates, raised his right hand to stop them from doing anything else. Then, he looked at the withered giant hand that was coming again, but was suppressed by the rules of heaven and earth and was getting slower and slower. God of Light, today I'll show you what the anger of a mortal is. After a loud roar, Yi Chun grabbed with his left hand. The heaven-swallowing demonic toad that had been subdued by Yi Chun and placed in the small world was instantly pulled out by Yi Chun. The heaven-swallowing demonic toad, which was in a daze, did not have any reaction before it was swallowed by Yi Chun. At the same time, an extremely evil aura suddenly rose from Yi Chun's body. One of the 10 great forbidden arts, the divine power deprivation art. Following Yi Chun's roar, the heaven-swallowing demonic toad that had been swallowed by Yi Chun was instantly turned into powder by an inexplicable energy and then disappeared without a trace. At the same time, a white ball of light appeared out of thin air. Then, it was grabbed by Yi Chun's primordial spirit and swallowed directly. Ding! Congratulations to player Yi Chun for obtaining the special divine power. Swallow the heavens and devour the earth. Success! Ding! Player Yi Chun lost 1/10 of his lifespan due to using the divine power deprivation technique of the top 10 forbidden techniques. In the future, he will not be able to subdue any spiritual pets. Losing 1/10 of his lifespan was fine, but if he lost his life, it would not be 1/10 of his lifespan. Moreover, as long as he advanced, his lifespan would increase exponentially. If he attained Tao, his lifespan would be unlimited. As for spiritual pets, if he died, he would not be able to subdue them. Moreover, he had enough spiritual pets. The divine power deprivation technique was a forbidden technique that Yi Chun had obtained in his previous life. This forbidden technique was powerful, but the success rate was extremely low. Moreover, every time it was used, it would consume 1/10 of the user's lifespan, and he would never be able to subdue any spiritual pets. It was also for this reason that Yi Chun, who had been reborn, had never thought of using this forbidden technique. But now, Yi Chun had no choice but to use it. This was because the God of Light had actually attacked Yi Chun at the risk of being devoured by the laws of heaven and earth and being noticed by the untainted. Thinking of this, Yi Chun's eyes suddenly widened, and then he opened his mouth and swallowed fiercely at the withered giant hand. Divine power, swallow the heavens and devour the earth. Following Yi Chun's roar, a huge mouth instantly appeared and swallowed the withered giant hand in a single gulp. Chapter 9:36. However, at this moment, the withered giant hand that was just swallowed suddenly opened its eyes and pulled itself out of the giant mouth. Yi Chun saw this and sneered. Then, he focused his gaze and shouted, "You're here, and you still want to run? Leave your hand behind." Boom! The giant mouth that covered the sun swallowed the withered giant hand of the God of Light once again. At the same time, it swallowed a large part of the sky. At the same time, a huge black hole that was completely black appeared in the sky. At this moment, the wind that was filled with a destructive aura kept howling. It looked as if the end of the world had arrived. The black hole quickly shrunk and soon disappeared completely. Along with the disappearance of the black hole, many layers of the ground were scraped off. Najev, Jason, and Murik were all dumbfounded when they saw this. What just happened? It was as if the entire sky had turned into a giant mouth and swallowed the hand of the God of Light. Najev couldn't continue. He swallowed his saliva heavily, and a sense of regret suddenly emerged in his heart. At this moment, Jason Muriel was also in a daze. Putting aside the fact that the powerful angel core had been easily crushed by a woman, what happened next toppled his worldview. The angel core had submitted to a human. After that, the God of Light attacked, but he was swallowed by a giant mouth that covered the sun. At the location of the Eastern players' army, seeing the shocking scene in the sky, the Eastern players widened their eyes, their faces full of shock. What's that? I think I heard it. It's a divine power, devour the heavens and earth. Devour the heavens and earth. It's really devour the heavens and earth. Is he still human? Yi Yu of Gojoseon is too powerful. I don't understand. What kind of world is this? Yes, the angel appeared. Then, the god of light appeared. This isn't the most shocking thing. The most shocking thing is that Yi Yu of Gojoseon actually killed the giant hand of the god of light. This is a good thing. Yi Yu of Gojoseon is on our side. He's the great Han cavalry guard. With Yi Yu of Gojoseon around, the victory of the World War will definitely belong to the East. In the sky, Yi Chun, who had just swallowed the giant hand of the light god with his remarkable ability, stopped in the void with an ugly expression on his face. Swallowing the heavens and devouring the earth was a divine ability, and a powerful one at that. But even so, swallowing the heavens and devouring the earth could not help Yi Chun quickly digest the giant hand of the god of light that was filled with divine light energy. It was also because of this that Yi Chun's body had suffered a backlash, and he couldn't continue using the devour the heavens and earth god art. Just as Yi Chun's expression turned ugly, the light divine energy that had been devoured by the swallow the heavens, devour the earth divine ability instantly rushed into Yi Chun's Zifu. Just as the Radiance God Force was about to wreak havoc in Yi Chun's Violet Palace, the great sun Red Lotus in Yi Chun's Violet Palace shuddered. After a buzzing sound, a red and white mystical power instantly appeared and firmly protected Yi Chun's Purple Palace. When Yi Chun sensed this, he immediately heaved a sigh of relief. That bastard god of light. Sooner or later, I will rush to the divine light realm to take revenge. Just you wait. Yi Chun's body trembled slightly, and blood seeped out of every pore of his body under the long robe. The pain was far more terrifying than death by 1,000 cuts. Every minute and every second was torturing his nerves. My lord, the generals of the Samsara Legion looked at Yi Chun, and each of them felt the same way. They were worried and angry, and they hated themselves for being so useless at this moment. When Negev and Jason Murik saw this, they looked at each other and then quietly prepared to escape. However, just as the two of them moved, a ray of light shot over. It was an arrow, and it instantly pierced the ground in front of Jason Murik. Millions of eyes in the Samsara Legion stared at the two of them. No one said a word, but the meaning was clear. If they dared to act without thinking, they would be killed without mercy. Jason Murik resentfully retracted his leg. He was furious, but he didn't dare to say anything. He secretly glanced at Yi Chun, who was hovering in the sky, and his eyes darted around. No matter how powerful Yi Chun was, he was just a mortal. He would definitely be injured after being hit by the god of light. Otherwise, why would he stay in the sky and not move? If he took the opportunity to launch a sneak attack now. At the thought of this, Jason Muriel secretly retracted his right hand into his sleeve. At this moment, a huge pressure suddenly rushed over. He saw Yi Chun's cold eyes glaring fiercely at him. No matter how strong the god of light was, the one fighting with Yi Chun wasn't himself. It was the power of the god of light. Yi Chun didn't have to worry about anything else as his purple mansion was guarded by the great sun Red Lotus, which was at the heavenly Tao immortal foundation level. Clowns! Enduring the intense pain, Yi Chun flicked two small flames of the grand sun Primordial flame at Negev and Jason Murik. No. Yi Yu of Gojoseon, spare my life. I'm willing to submit. Negev's eyes widened when he saw this. Then, he hurriedly shouted, everything was instigated by the Holy Sea. I respect Lord Yi Yu of Gojoseon. Yi Chun closed his eyes and continued to resist the god of light's divine power. The two flames of the grand sun Primordial flame landed on Negev and Jason Murik. After two miserable cries, the two of them were burned to ashes. All the enemies on the battlefield had been wiped out. The Eastern players in the distance quietly looked at Yi Chun in the sky. No one spoke. They were all waiting. Half an hour later, Yi Chun completely compressed the god of light's divine power into a corner of his purple mansion. Then, he looked up at the sky and roared. God of Light, you old fart. What other tricks do you have? The God of Light had violated the rules of heaven and earth this time. The backlash he received would definitely be more severe than Yi Chen's. Moreover, he had attracted the attention of the prehistoric mighty figures. He could only be a coward. However, no matter what, the God of Light was one of the main gods of the Western mythological world. He could even be said to be the strongest main god. He would definitely care about his reputation. It was also because of this reason that Yi Chun shouted such rude words. Yi Chun wanted the God of Light to continue attacking. This way, the prehistoric mighty figures who had already noticed the God of Light would definitely attack the God of Light. This was not Yi Chen's wild speculation. It was because the God of Light's actions were a slap to the prehistoric mighty figures' faces. After all, Yi Chun was a mortal of the prehistoric era. No matter how much Yi Chun wanted to die, he could not be attacked by an outsider. However, as soon as Yi Chun finished speaking, the white vortex in the sky disappeared without a trace. Upon seeing this, Yi Chun pursed his lips in disdain. Then, he looked at the God of Light's divine power that had been suppressed to a corner in his purple mansion. Although there were many dangers this time, the rewards were not small. As long as he could devour and refine the God of Light's divine power, the true sun flame would definitely increase by a large margin. Just you wait. When I reach the west, none of your disciples and grand disciples will be able to escape. At this thought, Yi Chun looked directly at the angel army that had already surrendered. Not bad. At least they did not escape or betray him again. Just as Yi Chun thought of this, the handsome four-winged angel suddenly knelt on one knee and bowed his head. Honorable Yi Yu of Gojoseon, can you let us see Lord Lucifer? The angel army behind the four-winged angel immediately knelt down as if they were harvesting rice. Upon hearing this, Yi Chun glanced at the four-winged angel and said, "Yes, sure." As soon as Yi Chun finished speaking, the angel army immediately smiled. However, Yi Chun's next words made them retract their smiles. But the prerequisite is that you have to sign a slave contract with me. Chapter 9:37. How could these fallen angels not know what a slave contract was? It was precisely because they knew that their expressions changed so drastically. In their opinion, submitting was fine, but signing a slave contract was too much. Once they signed a slave contract, they would completely lose their freedom and human rights. Their future would be dark, and they would have no future at all. Yi Chun glanced at the army of fallen angels, whose expressions had changed drastically, and smiled. He said, "You can choose not to sign it, but the result will be the same as before. You will die." As soon as Yi Chun finished speaking, the fallen angel's expressions changed drastically. At this moment, a flame formed by the grand sun, primordial fire, instantly appeared in front of Yi Chun. The fallen angels, who were about to fly into a rage, immediately froze when they saw this. If they were afraid of the grand sun, primordial fire, when they were angels, then now that they had become fallen angels, they were even more afraid of the grand sun, primordial fire. This was because their attribute had changed to darkness, and the grand sun, primordial fire, was the most masculine and masculine, which completely restrained them. Of course, in the eyes of these fallen angels, the grand sun, primordial fire, floating in front of Yi Chun, was the divine light fire. Even so, they were still afraid because the so-called divine sun, primordial fire, also restrained them, and it was the kind that completely restrained them. It was also at this moment that these fallen angels remembered that although the realm of Yu of Beach of the Great Han Empire was not as high as theirs, Yi Chun had a subordinate who could defeat them with his bare hands. He himself had also clashed with the God of Light once, and even swallowed the right hand of the God of Light. Thinking of this, the fallen angels became even more uneasy. Yi Chun glanced at the frozen fallen angels, who did not know what to say, and directly shouted, "Tell me your choice." If Lucifer was at his peak, Yi Chun could summon Lucifer from the Nether Mansion and then force these fallen angels to sign a slave contract through Lucifer. But in reality, Lucifer's strength had been greatly weakened, and he had even turned into a skeleton. Otherwise, Yi Chun would not have been able to force Lucifer to sign a slave contract back then. Of course, this was not important. What was important was that Lucifer, who had become the skeleton of the god of darkness in the Western mythological world, was currently too weak. If Yi Chun really summoned Lucifer, these fallen angels would still be as hesitant as they were now. As for the reason, it was very simple. Lucifer could not suppress these fallen angels. It was for this reason that Yi Chun told the fallen angels to sign a slave contract so that they could meet Lucifer. As soon as Ye's words, the grand sun Primordial fire, and Yi Chin's of the sun Primordial fire in front of Yi Chin's, Yi instantly began to boil. Success of God is Yi, and then hurriedly, we are willing. The fallen angels' words were filled with reluctance, but unfortunately, no matter how unwilling they did not dare to refuse. They were afraid that Yi Chun would use solar true flame to attack them, and they were even more afraid that Yi Chun would create a giant mouth that could blot out the sun and swallow them like he had swallowed the right hand of the god of light. Yi Chun glanced at the fallen angels, and then with a thought, the ancient contract book instantly appeared in front of Yi Chun. After glancing at the ancient contract book, Yi Chun raised his right hand and flipped open the ancient contract book. A second later, the thought of signing a slave contract, a master-slave contract, or an equal contract appeared in Yi Chun's mind. Sensing this, Yi Chun unhesitatingly chose the slave contract. As soon as Yi Chun made his decision, a massive 8 trigrams formation appeared in the sky, shining with golden light. There were thousands of runes within, and on the screen of light, tadpole-like characters swam about, creating a dazzling scene. At the same time, the sound of Tao appeared out of nowhere. When the Eastern players saw the dazzling 8 trigrams formation in the sky, they were stunned. Then, there was an uproar. Damn, that's the 8 trigrams formation? Why does it look so cool? If it's not the 8 trigrams formation, what is it? Damn, Yu of Gojoseon just used his ultimate move, and now he's going to use his ultimate move again. Is he going to destroy the angels with blackened wings? I don't think so. They surrendered just now. Moreover, when Yu of Gojoseon was fighting with the god of light, these black-winged angels did not take the opportunity to attack Yu of Gojoseon. I'm not sure. Let's just watch. Anyway, we don't understand. Sigh, comparisons are odious. When can I be like Yu of Gojoseon, flying in the sky and burrowing into the ground and doing everything? While the Eastern players were discussing the massive 8 trigrams formation in the sky, the 8 trigrams formation under Yi Chen's feet suddenly emitted tens of thousands of red light pillars. Then they enveloped Yi Chun, tens of thousands of fallen angels, and 4-winged fallen angels. In the next second, the voice of the soul, which contained the aura of Tao, suddenly sounded. After 10 minutes, when the voice of the soul, which contained the aura of Tao, ended, Yi Chun felt that he could control the life and death of all the fallen angels with his mind. When Yi Chun realized this, he could not help but smirk. Success. As Yi Chun thought of this, the tens of thousands of fallen angels who had just signed a slave contract with Yi Chun immediately bowed respectfully to Yi Chun. Greetings, Master. When Yi Chun heard this, he chuckled and nodded. Then, with a thought, he shouted, Meng Puh, bring Lucifer up. As soon as Yi Chun finished speaking, a black whirlpool suddenly appeared in front of Yi Chun. Then, Meng Puh and Lucifer, who was still in the form of a skeleton, came out of it. As soon as Meng Puh appeared, she bowed to Yi Chun. Young Master. When Yi Chun heard this, he smiled slightly and said, Don't think too much. Don't overthink it. I don't blame you. Meng Puh was the external incarnation of Grand Wizard Hutu. Although it was equivalent to an individual body, its existence was too special. If Meng Puh had really fought against the god of light, just now, it would have attracted the attention of the almighty beings of the untainted land. Then, Yi Chun would have directly entered the sights of the almighty beings of the untainted land. In this way, Yi Chun would most likely have been schemed against as soon as he ascended. even if he had not been schemed against. When Grand Wizard Hoodoo's body turned into samsara, Yi Chun would have been schemed against. In this way, Yi Chun's danger would have been so great that it would have broken through the sky. This was because at that time, those who participated in Hoodoo's body turning into samsara would all be saints of the untainted land. No one would allow Yi Chun to obtain the massive amount of merit that would appear when the 6 paths of reincarnation were opened. Thank you, young master. When Mengpa heard this, she glanced at Yi Chun and bowed. Chapter 9:38. Yi Chun smiled when he heard Mengpo's words. At this moment, Lucifer recovered from the shock of seeing tens of thousands of fallen angels kneeling on the ground. He hurriedly looked at Yi Chun and bowed. Greetings, master. Yi Chun nodded and waved his right hand. The Dragon Mountain saber, which he had obtained from Shiva of India, instantly appeared in his right hand. You don't have any weapons, so I'll give this Dragon Mountain saber to you. The Dragon Mountain saber was a special divine weapon. If one used the Dragon Mountain saber to kill people or spirits, the Dragon Mountain saber would become stronger and stronger. The person using the Dragon Mountain saber would also become stronger and stronger. This was undoubtedly the most suitable weapon for Lucifer, whose cultivation had declined greatly and had yet to recover to its peak. Lucifer took the Dragon Mountain saber and glanced at it. He was stunned for a moment, but when he recovered, he bowed with ecstasy. Thank you, master. When Yi Chun heard this, he chuckled and nodded. Then, he looked at the fallen angel army kneeling in midair not far away. They were shocked by Lucifer's appearance and stunned by Lucifer's address. He said, "These should be your former subordinates. Whether they are or not, they will be under your command from now on. Once you reach the Nether Mansion, raise your strength as quickly as possible. As for everything else, listen to Mengpo's orders. Don't act on your own." "Yes, master. Master." When Lucifer heard this, he nodded his head heavily and then bowed. Yi Chun looked at Mengpa. Just as he was about to send her back to the Nether Mansion, Mengpa suddenly came to Yi Chun's side. "Young master, there is the power of the Western god of light in your Zifu. You should absorb and refine it as soon as possible. Otherwise, you may be in danger." When Yi Chun heard this, he nodded with a smile and said, "That's right. I know." Before Yi Chun could finish, Mengpa suddenly frowned. She raised her right hand and pressed it on Yi Chun's back. "Young master, the god of light's divine power contains the will of the god of light. You can't delay any longer. Young master, please calm down." When Yi Chun heard this, his eyes widened. F*CK. That F*, king god of light, was indeed sinister. Thinking up to this point, Yi Chun hurriedly closed his eyes and concentrated. At this moment, an enormous force rushed into Yi Chun's body. At the same time, Mengpo's origin spirit flew out of her right hand and entered Yi Chun's body. In the next second, Mengpo's primordial spirit flew straight into Yi Chun's Zifu along with the enormous power she had released into Yi Chun's body. Within Yi Chun's Violet Palace, Yi Chun's primordial spirit, who was sitting cross-legged on the Great Sun Red Lotus Immortal Platform on the Heavenly Tao Immortal Platform, opened his eyes and was stunned. The Mengpa in the outside world was wearing clothes, but her primordial spirit was not. Otherwise, why would Yi Chun be in a daze? Young master, pay attention to absorbing and refining. Mengpo's primordial spirit noticed that Yi Chun's primordial spirit was staring at her. Her face turned red, and she hurriedly shouted, "All right." After Yi Chun came back to his senses, his primordial spirit hurriedly retracted his gaze and looked at the light divine power that had been compressed into a corner of his Zifu. At this moment, Mengpo's primordial spirit grabbed the light divine power in the corner of Yi Chun's Zifu with her right hand. Then, the light divine power was caught in her hand. Boom! A loud sound was heard. The light divine power, which had been relatively quiet, suddenly began to boil. At the same time, a roar filled with anger sounded. Yi Chun, umph! After a cold snort, Mengpo's primordial spirit clenched her right hand. Boom! The light divine power instantly exploded. Then, tens of thousands of rays of light divine power exploded. When Yichen saw this, he was stunned. However, he immediately noticed something different. The light divine power now seemed to be, not only was it much more docile, but it was also much easier to absorb and refine. When he thought of this, Yichen's primordial spirit moved. Then, he started to absorb and refine the light divine power. The radiance divine energy was the best nourishment for the grand sun, primordial flame. In the past, Yichen had absorbed and refined the radiance divine energy at an extremely slow pace. But now, Yichen's absorption and refinement speed was simply too abnormal. In just a few breaths' time, all of the radiance divine energy had been absorbed and refined by Yichen. As Yichen finished absorbing and refining, a fireball formed completely from the primordial flame of the sun instantly appeared in Yichen's Zifu. After sensing that he could control the primordial flame of the sun freely, Yichen's lips curled up. As expected, the light divine power has been refined by me. At this moment, a muffled groan was heard. Meng Po's primordial spirit could not help but fall backward. At the same time, a cloud of black smoke rose from the right hand of Meng Po's primordial spirit and disappeared without a trace. When he saw this, Yichen's primordial spirit hurried behind Meng Po's primordial spirit. Don't! As soon as Meng Po's words fell, Yichen's primordial spirit's hand supported Meng Po's primordial spirit. At this moment, an indescribable feeling of comfort appeared in Yichen's heart. At the same time, Meng Po's memories, from her birth to her being forced to flee to the Nether Palace, and now, appeared in front of Yichen's eyes like a movie. These were Meng Po's memories, but now, Yichen was looking through them all. The moment Yichen finished looking through Meng Po's memories, Yichen suddenly sensed Meng Po's loneliness and helplessness. At the same time, a younger version of Meng Po, with her back facing Yichen, appeared in front of Yichen. When he saw this, an indescribable feeling of heartache appeared in Yichen's heart. At this moment, Yichen appeared behind the younger version of Meng Po, stroked her head, and softly said, "You are still me. You are you. Even if the entire world abandons you, you still have me." As soon as Yichen finished speaking, the young version of Meng Po suddenly trembled and then shattered with a walla sound. A second later, Meng Po appeared in front of Yichen and tightly hugged Yichen. "Young master, even if the entire world betrays you, Meng Po will never betray you. Meng Po will always be by young master's side." Buzz. Time and space spun, and time flew by. In the blink of an eye, after who knew how many years, or tens of thousands of years, Yichen and Meng Po finally opened their eyes. At this moment, an extremely powerful energy suddenly erupted from Yichen's body. At the same time, Yichen's physical body began to grow stronger and stronger. 1 time, 2 times, 10 times, 20 times. It was only when Yichen's physical body became 100 times stronger that the changes stopped. Before Yichen could react, the system's notification suddenly sounded. Ding! Congratulations to player Yichen and Grand Wizard Hutu for completing the cultivation of the primordial spirit. Their physical bodies have evolved into the body of a great wizard. Ding! Congratulations to player Yichen and Meng Po for evolving into Daluo Jinxian. Chapter 9:39. As soon as the system's notification ended, Yichen's primordial spirit opened his eyes. At the same time, Meng Po's primordial spirit also opened her eyes. Their eyes met and their hearts trembled. At this moment, a strong sense of intimacy that came from knowing each other for tens of thousands of years and getting along with each other for millions of years involuntarily appeared in Yichen's heart. At the same time, Yichen also felt a sense of comfort that he missed so much that he even wanted to repeat it. Primordial spirit cultivation. This feeling seemed to be even more comfortable was it the communication between souls. As Yichen thought of this, Meng Po's primordial spirit, who was tightly hugged by Yi Chen's primordial spirit, gently leaned her head on Yi Chen's body. "Husband, you're too reckless." After hearing Meng Po's words, Yi Chen was stunned. Meng Po changed her way of addressing Yi Chen as husband. Yi Chen could understand and liked it very much. However, Yi Chen did not quite understand how reckless Meng Po was. Just as Yi Chen was dumbfounded, Meng Po sighed and said, "Husband, you originally had nothing to do with the sorcerer tribe. However, I'm afraid you have an inextricable bond with the sorcerer tribe now. Is it because of the great sorcerer's body?" Yi Chen was slightly stunned when he heard this. Then, he looked at Meng Po and asked. Meng Po nodded and said, "Yes, husband. The great sorcerer's body is the symbol of the orthodox sorcerer tribe. Once you have the great sorcerer's body, your body will automatically produce sorcerer blood essence. Therefore, you are now a member of the sorcerer tribe. So be it. It doesn't matter. Your husband is really not afraid of this." Yi Chen could not help but smile when he heard this. Meng Po was the external incarnation of the ancestor of Sorcerer Hutu and belonged to this special sorcerer tribe. She told Yi Chen this because she was worried that Yi Chen would be involved in the war between the sorcerer tribe and the demon tribe. Although the great sorcerer tribe had not started during the prehistoric period, the signs had already appeared. It was also because of this reason that Meng Po stopped Yi Chen's primordial spirit from helping her primordial spirit. However, in the end, it was still too late. In the end, Yi Chen and Meng Po had a primordial spirit cultivation. After that, Meng Po advanced to become a golden immortal of the great all-embracing heaven, while Yi Chen obtained the body of a great sorcerer, possessing the characteristics of the sorcerer tribe. As a result, Yi Chen had an unbreakable bond with the sorcerer tribe. Meng Po did not know what to do now. Meng Po's was Meng. Meng was. It was precisely because of this that Meng Po said that Yi Chen was being too rash. Sorcerer, where Meng Po's was sorcerer was. As for whether Meng Po could get rid of the body of a great witch, Yi Chen would not ask, nor did he have such thoughts. In fact, to Yi Chen, who had several powerful opponents to challenge, getting involved in the Great Lich Demon War was not a problem at all. To be more precise, if Yi Chen was not powerful enough when the Great War of the Witch Demon tribe started, even if Yi Chen was not involved in it, he would have been killed or maimed by existences like Yuan Shi, Yang Mei, Hong Jun, and Luo Ho. This was not a joke. Yi Chen had too many special storylines. It was precisely because of this that Yi Chen wasn't worried about anything at all. What's more, with Meng Po around, Yi Chen couldn't ignore Hutu of the Wu tribe. Once Yi Chen took care of Hutu, he would definitely be on the same side as the Wu tribe. Hearing Yi Chen's words, Meng Po gently rubbed Yi Chen's chest and said, "Darling, if you ascend to the untainted land, remember to go to the Wu tribe and find Sister Hutu. You are you. Don't think too much." Hearing this, Yi Chen smiled and touched the long hair of Meng Po's primordial spirit. Then, he said seriously, Meng Po was transformed from Hutu's essence blood and primordial spirit. She could be regarded as Hutu or as an external incarnation of Hutu. She could also be regarded as an individual. And this was the reason why Meng Po was in a dilemma. Hearing Yi Chen's words, Meng Po hugged Yi Chen tightly and said, "It's so good to meet my husband in this life." Hearing this, Yi Chen lowered his head and kissed Meng Po. Then, he said seriously, "There's still a long way to go. Don't worry. When the time comes, your husband will make the decision for you." After replying to Yi Chen, Meng Po left Yi Chen's arms. In the next second, Meng Po smiled sweetly and said, "Darling, it's almost time. I want to go back to my body. If I stay here any longer, I'll delay your important matter. How's your injury?" Yi Chen nodded his head when he heard this, then asked. Hearing this, Meng Po nodded and said, "Darling, don't worry. Don't worry, my husband. My injuries have already healed when I just advanced." "Okay, let's go back then." Yi Chen immediately let out a sigh of relief when he heard that. After Yi Chen finished speaking, Meng Po's primordial spirit smiled sweetly and flew back to her body. At the same time, Yi Chen opened his eyes. At this moment, a world announcement suddenly sounded. Ding! Congratulations to player Yi Chun for advancing to the body of a great wizard. Special reward to player Yi Chun. Innate attribute points x 3000. Ding! Congratulations to player Yi Chun for successfully repelling the God of Light. Special reward to player Yi Chun. Lottery x1. Innate attribute points x 3000. The world announcement was repeated 3 times and instantly blew up the entire world channel. F*CK. F*CK. Did I hear wrongly? Not only did Yi Chun advance to the body of a great wizard, he even repelled the God of Light. You didn't hear wrongly. F*CK. What kind of existence is the God of Light? He looks like the supreme god of the Western mythological world. He was repelled just like that? Wah! Boss Yi Chun is awesome. Little brother will bow down and worship. That's impossible. It's the God of Light. F*CK. Why does it feel like the God of Light has become like a cat or a dog after listening to this world announcement? He was defeated so easily? Don't doubt it. I'm here in the Polar Bear Empire, and I saw the entire process. F*CK. That scene was so awesome that it couldn't be more awesome. It's not just awesome. It's so awesome. Yi Yu of Gojoseon used some kind of godly ability to swallow the heavens and earth. F*CK. He swallowed the God of Light's big hand in one gulp. Although the God of Light's big hand ran out again, it was useless at first. It was still swallowed by Yi Yu of Gojoseon. Sigh. Comparisons are odious. From the start of the game, King Yi has been so F*King awesome. Even now, he's still so F*King awesome. Moreover, the attribute points he's earned are simply uncountable. The world channel was in an uproar. After Yi Chun glanced at it, he couldn't help but raise his eyebrows. Then, with a thought, an additional sentence appeared in the world channel. If you want to increase your level quickly, then kill foreign players. It's simple and easy. Moreover, it gives you a lot of experience. Chapter 940. As soon as Yi Chun's words appeared on the world channel, the originally lively world channel exploded. F*CK. F*CK. What'd I just see? Yi Yu of Gojoseon has spoken, and he's encouraging us to kill foreign players. You didn't see wrong. Let me tell you, I'm having a killing spree right now. I'm having a great time. I'm having a killing spree in Tin 2. I'm having a great time too. I'm not going to fight with you. I'm in the Polar Bear Empire. I reckon it won't be long before Yi Yu of Gojoseon destroys the Polar Bear Empire. When that happens, we can also kill foreign players here and rake in EXP. I'm also in the Polar Bear Empire. I was lucky enough to see Yi Yu of Gojoseon unleash his prowess. Don't you think it's cruel? Every time you kill someone, they'll drop 10 levels. If you kill them too many times, how are they going to survive in the real world? Are you an idiot? What does their survival have to do with us? Besides, look at Japan, Tin 2, and the Polar Bear Empire. They're all stationing troops at the border. What are they going to do now? You tell me. Why bother with this idiot and retard? Why don't you think about what will happen to us if the East Novice Zone is breached? Holy Mother of God, don't tell me that you only do good deeds on a daily basis. You don't kill people or steal things. There aren't many people who can live until now who don't have blood on their hands. You're so fierce to your own people, but you pity foreign players. Did you grow up eating shit? F*CK. Don't you know what Yi Chun is doing now? Destroy the country. No, destroy the whole world. He wants to kill all the foreign players. So what? This damned world has always been like this. At the end of the day, strength is king. Only with strength can one survive. In the past, Boss Yi Chun killed people because some idiot wanted to provoke Boss Yi Chun. But now, Boss Yi Chun is killing people to protect Dongfang so that we can quickly increase our strength. You lackey, do you think Yi Chun will give you benefits just because you said all that? You won't have to die? F*CK your mother, you idiot. Stop blabbering. I'll tell you one thing. Don't be a saint. Otherwise, even if you don't die in the hands of others, you'll die in my hands. Why bother with those idiots? What they're saying is most likely because their friends or relatives have been killed by Boss Yi-chun. That's why they're going around mocking Boss Yi-chun. People like that will die sooner or later. I'm tired of saying another word. To be honest, I didn't feel it before, but now I do. Don't think too much about it. Boss Yi-chun is an existence that no one can surpass. As long as Boss Yi-chun wants to do something, no one can stop him. I can guarantee that everyone will be able to live well. As for being plotted against by others, that's a different story. That's what I felt before. Now, that feeling is even stronger. The World Channel was abuzz with activity. Ichin couldn't help but raise his eyebrows when he saw it. Not bad. At least most of the players have woken up. This way, I can kill fewer people. Thinking of this, Yi-chun smiled and looked at Meng Pe, who was looking at him sweetly. How about you don't go to the Nether Mansion? You can stay here with me and wait until I ascend. Then you can go to the Nether Mansion. As soon as Yi-chun asked this question, Meng Pe kissed Yi-chun fiercely and said, "My husband is special. My husband, I have a special identity. Even in this world, I can't stay for long. Moreover, it won't be long before you ascend to the untainted land. When the time comes, I'll still have to return to the Nether Mansion. Rather than go through so much trouble, it's better for me to stay in the Nether Mansion and make preparations for your grand plan. That way, you can bring Meng Pe back to the wilderness as soon as possible." Yi-chun's heart warmed when he heard this. He nodded heavily and said, "Yes." "Okay." Meng Pe smiled and waved her right hand. The black light barrier released by Lucifer instantly dissipated. At the same time, Meng Pe's face was replaced by its usual calmness. Yi-chun glanced at Meng Pe, then looked at Lucifer and said, "You did well. You even knew to put up a protective barrier." "Master, this is what I should do." Lucifer was delighted when he heard this and hurriedly bowed to Yi-chun. When Yi-chun heard this, he nodded and looked at Meng Pe. "Be careful when you reach the Nether Mansion. If you encounter any danger, call for me immediately." "Yes, my husband." Meng Pe nodded and waved her right hand. A cloud of black smoke instantly enveloped Lucifer and the group of fallen angels. In the next second, there was a flash of black light, and Meng Pe disappeared with Lucifer and the others. Yi-chun heaved a sigh of relief when he saw Meng Pe disappear. He then looked at Zhao Yun, Dian Xiong, Guan Er, Zhang San, Huang Sheng, and the other generals who were waiting for his orders on the ground. He shouted, "Attack the Tagmu city." "Yes, my lord." Zhao Yun, Dian Xiong, Guan Er, Zhang San, Huang Sheng, Gao Shun, and the other generals bowed in unison. They then led the army of the Reincarnation Immortal City and charged toward the Tagmu city, which was located at the border of the Polar Bear Empire. Rumble! Tens of thousands of horses galloped and the earth rumbled. The army of the Reincarnation Immortal City quickly entered full speed and disappeared into the distance. The Eastern players hurriedly followed the army of the Reincarnation Immortal City and charged toward the Tagmu city, which was located at the border of the Polar Bear Empire. Previously, the players might have been worried that Yi-chun would be angry at them for following him. But now, no one was worried about this. Yi-chun's words on the World Channel had clearly told all the players one thing. Yi-chun didn't care if others followed him to reap benefits. As for whether Yi-chun was lying, no one thought so. It was also because of this reason that the players were more excited than before. They had no choice. They could pick up items for free, easily kill foreign players, and constantly level up. Who wouldn't like it? In the sky, Yi-chun couldn't help but smirk as he watched the army of the Reincarnation Immortal City and the army of players following behind them. The more players there were, the easier it would be to plunder the heaven and earth providence of the overseas countries. Thinking of this, Yi-chun made a mental command and flew back to the Reincarnation Immortal City. In the next second, the Reincarnation Immortal City, which covered the sun, flew toward the Tagmu city, which was located at the border of the Polar Bear Empire. On the city wall of the Tagmu city, is there still no news? The high-level city guard looked at the empty wilderness in the distance with a gloomy face and asked without turning his head. Chapter 941. A polar bear guard dressed as a personal guard hurriedly replied when he heard this. Senior guard, the scouts we sent out haven't returned yet. Damn it, something must have happened. Otherwise, why hasn't anyone come to report the news after such a long time? The senior guard of Tagmu City clenched his fists when he heard this. Then, he slammed his fists on the city wall and said, when the personal guard of the senior guard heard this, he glanced at the empty wilderness outside the city wall and said, Senior guard, there's no need to worry. Our polar bear empire has millions of troops and millions of players following us. Even if we encounter a large-scale armed force of the Great Han, we will still be able to retreat unscathed after suffering defeat. You think our polar bear empire will lose? When the senior guard of Tagmu City heard this, his face darkened. Then, he looked at the personal guard and shouted angrily. When the personal guard of the senior guard of Tagmu City heard this, his face suddenly changed. He hurriedly bowed and said, Senior guard, I'm sorry. Senior guard, this lowly one has no such intention. Enough, you go and clean up the horse dung for 3 consecutive days. If you miss 2 hours, I'll break your legs. When the high-ranking city guard of the Tagmu City heard this, he slapped him across the face and roared fiercely. Yes, senior guard. When the personal guard who was slapped heard this, he immediately heaved a sigh of relief and bowed. However, just as he stood up straight and was about to go down the city wall to receive his punishment, a cavalry army of unknown numbers suddenly appeared in his line of sight. At this moment, the personal guard was stunned. In the next second, the personal guard's pupil shrank. Hurry up and clean up the horse dung. The senior guard of Tagmu City, who had fallen into a violent mood, saw the personal guard in a daze and was furious again. Then he roared loudly. Senior guard, not good. The Great Han armed forces are attacking. After hearing the senior guard's reprimand, the personal guard immediately came back to his senses and shouted nervously. He couldn't help but be nervous. The Great Han armed forces had appeared, but there was no Polar Bear Empire armed forces. What did this mean? It was very simple. The Polar Bear Empire's armed forces that went to the Great Han armed forces were all annihilated. Millions of polar bear cavalry and millions of Inhumans were all wiped out. What did that mean? The Great Han armed forces were strong enough to crush the polar bear army. Otherwise, such a situation would not have happened. And now, the Great Han armed forces, who had annihilated the Polar Bear Empire's army, had arrived outside Tagmu City. This meant that they were about to attack Tagmu City immediately. Thinking of the extremely powerful Great Han armed forces in front of Tagmu City, how could the personal guards of the senior guards of Tagmu City not be shocked and nervous? What? After a cry of surprise, the high-ranking city guard of Tagmu City hurriedly turned around and looked into the distance. Then his body stiffened. Damn it! They really came. Just as the senior city guards of Tagmu City were shocked by the sudden appearance of the burly man-armed forces, the city guards on the city walls were in an uproar. It's the Great Han armed forces. The Great Han armed forces are coming. Where's the armed forces of the Polar Bear Empire? Why don't I see them? Damn it! Don't you understand? They've all been wiped out. It must be so. Otherwise, why can't I see a single deserter? How can this be? An army of millions of cavalry soldiers was wiped out just like that? Hearing the discussion of his subordinates, the senior city guard of Tagmu City's face suddenly darkened. Then he shouted loudly, What are you panicking for? Tagmu City is 30 meters tall. What's there to be afraid of? Go, prepare kerosene, rolling wood, and stones for me. And the arrows, bring them all up to the city wall. As soon as the senior city guard of Tagmu City finished speaking, the Polar Bear Empire guards on the city walls, who had just become chaotic, all felt a chill. Then their eyes suddenly lit up. Yes, senior city guard. After a shout, the Polar Bear Empire guards on the city walls of Tagmu City ran to transport rolling wood, stones, kerosene, and bundles of arrows. At this moment, the guards of the Polar Bear Empire had already regained their senses. With the Tagmu City around, they really had nothing to worry about. The height of the city walls of 30 meters was enough to weaken the enemy's arrow attacks. As for the enemy attacking the city, they would have to get close to Tagmu City. Therefore, there was nothing to worry about. Rumble. 10,000 horses galloped, and the earth rumbled. Under the leadership of Zhao Yun, Dian Xiong, Guan Er, Zhang San, Gao Shun, Huang Sheng, Zhang Er, and other generals, the reincarnation Immortal City army sped all the way and soon arrived 2,000 meters away from Tagma City. At this moment, Zhao Yun, Dian Xiong, Guan Er, Zhang San, Gao Shun, Huang Sheng, and the other generals raised their right hands and shouted, "Stop!" As soon as the generals finished speaking, the guards of the reincarnation Immortal City pulled on the reins and quickly came to a stop. At this moment, the weakest in the reincarnation Immortal City army was at least an emperor-level general. At this level, if they wanted to clearly hear the orders of Zhao Yun, Dian Xiong, Guan Er, and the others, among thousands of soldiers and horses, it was completely easy to do. Otherwise, the reincarnation Immortal City guards would have already bumped into each other. Nay, the war horses lowered their heads and neighed. The sound of hooves stomping on the ground disappeared without a trace. "Everyone, what about the old method?" Zhao Yunjun glanced at the surrounding generals and asked. "The old way." Dian Xiong, Guan Er, Zhang San, Huang Sheng, and the other generals smiled and nodded in agreement. "Since that's the case, let's begin. Master doesn't like us wasting time," Zhao Yunzhang said with a smile when he heard this. "All right." Dian Xiong, Guan Er, Zhang San, Huang Sheng, and the other generals laughed and said. In the next second, Zhao Yun, Dian Xiong, Guan Er, Zhang San, and Huang Sheng raised their right hands and shouted, "Change to the bows and arrows." As soon as the generals gave the order, the reincarnation Immortal City guards put down their long weapons and held the bows and arrows in their hands. On the city wall of Tagmu City, the deputy general who was guarding the city was stunned when he saw the reincarnation Immortal City army stop 2,000 meters away. "What's going on? Why did they stop at 2,000 meters? They haven't reached our shooting range yet. Something's wrong." After hearing the deputy general's words, the senior city guard looked at the reincarnation Immortal City army seriously and said with a frown, Chapter 942. Senior Guard, what's wrong? The deputy general of the city guard was stunned when he heard this. He then asked. The senior guard pointed at the reincarnation Immortal City's army that had changed their bows and said, Look, it's so far away. If it were you, would you change your bow?" "Senior Guard, it's so far away. They definitely won't be able to hit the city wall," the deputy general said without hesitation. Then he was stunned. "That's not right. Senior Guard, the Great Han Armed Forces can't be so stupid. They dare to use bows and arrows from so far away. Moreover, they want to hit us on the city wall? Do you think the armed forces of the Great Han Empire that could wipe out millions of our Polar Bear Empire's cavalry and inhuman troops will be stupid?" The high-ranking city guard glanced at the vice general and asked in a deep voice. When the deputy general heard this, he was stunned. Then his eyes narrowed. "It can't be. The Great Han Armed Forces' bows and arrows are so powerful that they can shoot from 2,000 meters away? It's not impossible. Otherwise, why would I say that something's wrong?" the senior guard said with a gloomy face. Just as the senior guard and the deputy general were chatting, the Polar Bear Empire's guards on the city wall saw the reincarnation Immortal City's army using their bows and arrows from 2,000 meters away. In the blink of an eye, the Polar Bear Empire's guards on the city wall started laughing wildly. "Ha ha ha, look, the Great Han Armed Forces are shooting arrows from 2,000 meters away." I'm dying of laughter. That's right. When I first saw this, I didn't dare to believe it. It's better to shoot arrows from 2,000 meters away. Not only will we be safe, but the Great Han Armed Forces will also waste a lot of arrows. I really don't know what the Great Han Armed Forces are thinking. They're shooting arrows from 2,000 meters away. They're trying to kill us with laughter. Yes, that must be it. Ha ha ha, you don't say. I was shocked when I saw the Great Han Armed Forces attacking. Now, it seems that the Great Han Armed Forces used the same method to disguise our Polar Bear Empire's cavalry. Then those damned idiots laughed themselves to death. Don't say that. They're our compatriots, the warriors of the Polar Bear Empire. What bullsh asterisk T warriors are you talking about? Losing to the armed forces of the Han Dynasty is a disgrace to the Polar Bear Empire. Just as the guards changed to bows and arrows because of the reincarnation Immortal City's army from 2,000 meters away and were discussing among themselves, the senior guard of Tagmu City's city suddenly turned gloomy and then shouted loudly, "You're too arrogant. Shut the F asterisk CK up, all of you. Take cover, raise your shields, and prepare to defend." The moment the order was given, the guards of the Polar Bear Empire on the city wall all turned cold. Then, they disapprovingly followed the order of the city guard and started to carry it out. Reincarnation Immortal City's army. Fire. In an instant, Zhao Yun, Dian Xiong, Guan Er, Zhang San, Huang Sheng, Li Yuanba, Gao Shun, and the other generals shouted in unison. In the next second, the army of 41 million Samsara virtuous ministers let go of the right hand that was pulling the bowstring. Clang, clang, clang. The dense sound of arrows leaving the bowstring instantly rang out. Then, 41 million arrows instantly soared into the sky and rapidly shot toward the city wall of Tagmu City. At this moment, the dense sound of arrows piercing through the air instantly rang out. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. On the city wall of Tagmu City, the senior guard who had been watching the reincarnation Immortal City's army closely was stunned when he saw this. The speed of these arrows, damn it, I guessed it right. The arrows of the Han Dynasty's armed forces have a range of more than 2,000 meters. Just as the senior guard thought of this, the deputy general of the city guard, who had also noticed that something was wrong with the arrows shot by the reincarnation Immortal City's army, narrowed his eyes and then shouted in shock, "How is this possible? 2,000 meters. The range of these arrows is actually more than 2,000 meters." As soon as the deputy general of the city guard exclaimed, the senior guard hurriedly looked at the surrounding guards and shouted, "Hide, all of you." After the senior guard finished speaking, he hurriedly took a shield from his personal guard and then squatted down beside the battlements of the city wall. The Polar Bear Empire's guards, who were originally unconcerned, couldn't help but feel their hearts tighten when they saw this. The arrows of the Han Dynasty's armed forces can't really hit the city wall, right? That's 2,000 meters. Didn't you hear what the senior guard said? It must be so. Damn it. Why can the bows of the Han Dynasty's armed forces shoot so far? Damn it, I knew it. Our Polar Bear Empire's millions of cavalry soldiers didn't even make it back. So it's because the bows of the Han Dynasty's armed forces are too strong. Stop talking, hurry up and hide. Otherwise, no one will save you if you become a hedgehog. Just as the guards on the city walls of Tagmu City were discussing amongst themselves, a rain of arrows that blotted out the sun instantly descended. Bang, bang, bang. The arrows hit the bricks on the city wall and then drilled straight in. Poochie, Poochie, Poochie. Guard in, who didn't hide well, was instantly shot through by the arrows and then died on the city wall. Poochie, Poochie, Poochie. The arrows that pierced through the bricks of the city wall had not lost their momentum and directly pierced through the armor of the polar bear guards hiding at the battlements and then penetrated the bodies of the polar bear guards. The rain of arrows stopped and miserable howls suddenly sounded. Ah, my leg. Ouch. Save me. Save me. At this moment, 70% of the polar bear guards on the city wall were killed. The high-ranking city guard of Tagmu City looked at the tragic situation on the city wall. He touched his ear that had been pierced by an arrow. Then, with a pale face, he looked at the lucky messenger beside him who was not injured at all. He shouted, "What are you doing? Quick, transfer the soldiers on the other 3 city walls over. Tell them that each person will be given 20 shields." The senior guard of Tagmu City had already personally experienced the strength of the arrows of the reincarnation Immortal City. It wasn't an ordinary strength. It was simply abnormal. Even the bricks of the city wall could be shot through. If this wasn't abnormal, then what was? How could they deal with such arrows? Without a doubt, they could only use shields that could block the arrows of the reincarnation Immortal City army. Did the Polar Bear Empire have such shields? Naturally, they didn't. If they didn't, they could only stack the shields. Otherwise, if they stood on the city wall, they would be waiting to be shot to death. As for abandoning the city and running away, others might be able to do so, but he couldn't. That was because he was a high-ranking city guard of the giant city at the border of the Polar Bear Empire, Tagmu City. If he ran away, the Emperor of the Polar Bear Empire would definitely order his family to be executed. Chapter 943. Yes, yes. Senior Guard. The messenger heard the words of the senior guard and shuddered as he stammered. The messenger was terrified. He didn't want to pass on any orders. He just wanted to leave this place as soon as possible. However, he couldn't ignore the orders of the senior guard. If he didn't, he would be executed immediately. Go quickly. When the high-ranking city guard saw the messenger's trembling appearance, he was instantly enraged and roared loudly. Yes, senior guard. After hearing the words of the high-ranking city guard that were filled with killing intent, the messenger's body immediately stiffened. After that, he hurriedly opened his mouth and shouted. After shouting, he hurriedly stood up and madly rushed toward the other side of the city wall, where the reincarnation Immortal City Army was. Should we wait for them to gather and launch another rain of arrows? Or should we attack the city directly? Zhang Er glanced at the Tagmu city, then looked at Zhao Yunzheng, Guan Er, Dian Xiong, and the others and asked, "Let's attack the city directly. It's faster this way, just like when we attacked Tintu. Moreover, with the equipment given by the Lord, the guards won't get hurt unless they're careless." Zhang Sen chuckled and said. Seconded. Zhao Yunzheng, Dian Xiong, Guan Er, Huang Sheng, Gao Shun, and the others nodded in agreement. "Let me do it," Li Yuanba said as he glanced at the Tagmu city that had been destroyed by the rain of arrows. Zhao Yun, Guan Er, Dian Xiong, Zhang San, Huang Sheng, and Gao Shan all smiled and said, "Let's do it." Okay. Li Yuanba was a character from the Sui and Tang dynasties. He was tricked by the players and then subdued by Yichun. In this world, Li Yuanba didn't have any relatives or friends. This was something that Zhao Yun, Guan Er, Dian Xiong, Zhang San, and Huang Sheng all knew. It was because they knew this that they took good care of Li Yuanba. They would chat with Li Yuanba, drink, and eat. Now that Li Yuanba wanted to fight, Zhao Yun, Dian Xiong, Guan Er, Zhang San, Huang Sheng, and the others naturally wouldn't refuse. Their motive was simple. They didn't want Li Yuanba to feel lonely or out of place. Li Yuanba grinned when he heard this. Then he raised the giant hammer in his hand and shouted, "Attack the city! Kill! Kill! Kill!" Hearing this, the 100,000 guards under Li Yuanba all changed to their long weapons and shouted loudly. In the next second, Li Yuanba's legs clamped onto the horse's belly, and he charged straight towards the Tagma city. Rumble, rumble, 10,000 horses galloped, and the earth rumbled. 100,000 reincarnation Immortal City Guards under Li Yuanba instantly charged forward and followed closely behind Li Yuanba towards the Tagmu giant city at a rapid speed. On the city walls of the Tagmu city, the senior city guard of the Tagmu city, who was still hiding at the battlements, was stunned when he heard the galloping horses and the rumbling of hooves on the ground. At this moment, not far from the senior city guard, the deputy general, who had been shot in the shoulder by an arrow and was enduring the pain, had his eyes lit up. Then he shouted in surprise, "Senior city guard, the armed forces of the Great Han Dynasty are about to attack the city." I heard that. The senior city guard took a deep breath and let out a long sigh. In the next second, the senior city guard looked at the city guards who were carrying a large number of shields and rushing over. He shouted, "Prepare to kill the enemy." Cavalry attacking the city was courting death. Although the senior city guard felt that something was wrong with the reincarnation Immortal City Army, he did not want to miss such a good opportunity. In his opinion, it was impossible for the reincarnation Immortal City Army to shoot arrows when they attacked the city. This way, they would not have to deal with the terrifying rain of arrows from the reincarnation Immortal City Army. Originally, the senior city guard was worried that he would be shot to death by the rain of arrows before the city guards on the other 3 city walls arrived. Now, he did not have to worry. As soon as the senior city guard finished speaking, the city guards who had just arrived immediately recovered from the shock of seeing corpses all over the ground and hurriedly shouted, "Yes, senior city guard." After the city guards who had just arrived shouted, they each drew their bows and aimed at Li Yuanba and Li Yuanba's subordinates who were charging toward the Tagma city. At this moment, the senior city guard of the Tagma city stood up and looked at Li Yuanba, who was rapidly advancing toward the Tagma city, as well as the 100,000 troops behind Li Yuanba. "Damn it, this time, I'll let you have a taste of the fear I've just experienced." Thinking of this, the high-ranking city guard raised his right hand and shouted loudly, "Brotherly, release the arrows." As soon as the senior city guard of the Tagmu city finished speaking, the Polar Bear Empire guards who had abandoned the other 3 city walls simultaneously released the bowstrings in their hands. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. The dense sound of arrows piercing through the air was instantly heard. Then, hundreds of thousands of arrows were shot directly toward Li Yuanba and the 100,000 troops behind Li Yuanba. Rumble. Thousands of horses galloped, and the earth rumbled. Li Yuanba, who was in the lead, looked at the sky full of arrows rapidly shooting toward him and waved the giant hammer in his right hand. Ding, ding, dang, dang, dang. After the dense sound of collision, all the arrows shot toward Li Yuanba were bounced off by the giant hammer in Li Yuanba's hand without exception. At the same time, the 100,000 troops behind Li Yuanba waved their long weapons in unison. In the blink of an eye, all the arrows that were shot toward their faces and war horses were swept away. As for the arrows that were shot at them, the guards directly chose to ignore them. Spirit-grade armor was far superior to heaven-grade, and heaven-grade equipment was the top equipment in this world. Therefore, the guards of the Reincarnation Immortal City were not worried that they would be injured if the arrows hit places other than the key parts of their bodies. Ding, ding, dang, dang. A series of arrows collided with the armor and then bounced off sounded again. After the wave of arrow rain ended, the Reincarnation Immortal City army was unscathed. On the city walls of the Tagmu city, the senior city guard of the Tagmu city, who saw the arrow rain attack without any effect, was stunned. How could it be? Senior city guard, their armor is definitely heaven grade. Otherwise, it would not be able to withstand the arrows. The deputy general of the city guard narrowed his eyes and then shouted in shock. When the senior city guard heard this, he immediately came back to his senses and then shouted with a gloomy face, "Prepare rolling wood, giant rocks, and kerosene. I don't believe that they are made of iron." Yes, senior city guard. When the polar bear guards heard this, they hurriedly shouted. After shouting, they hurriedly lifted the rolling wood and giant rocks that had been moved to the city walls. As for the rest, they pushed the kerosene pots to the edge of the city walls. Just as the guards on the city walls of the Tagmu city prepared the city defense equipment, Li Yuanba suddenly leaped from his warhorse and rushed straight to the city gates of the Tagmu city. You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.